Chapter 91 Fight. Chapter 91 Fight. Translator, Zayamoj. At night, in a luxurious palace. Yang Feng entered the palace while dressed in formal clothing. There he saw countless handsome man and beautiful woman. Practically all of them were shrouded by formidable life force. The majority were powerful level 1 warlocks, those that were slightly weaker were still level 3 and level 2 apprentice warlocks. The eyes of many beautiful women shone once Yang Feng entered the palace, one by one approaching him. "Hello, Rex. My name is Aisha. May I invite you to a dance?" An 18 or 19-year-old beautiful young lady with long brown hair. She had a sensual figure, wore a black evening dress and emitted temptation and charm. She approached Yang Feng with a touch of extraordinary elegance and extended her jade-white hand, while smiling sweetly. "Hello, Rex. My name is Anna. Would you like to dance with me?" An innocent-looking and big-breasted beauty dressed in a silver evening dress, with long golden hair, a fiery and sensual figure went up to Yang Feng with a sweet smile and extended her jade-like hand. "Hello, Rex." The beautiful women inside the palace. They nearly trampled each other as they crowded around Yang Feng, competing through their looks. Tension surged as they fought over the right to invite Yang Feng to a dance. Yang Feng smiled merrily as he looked at the scene before his eyes. His heart was filled with a sense of excitement and novelty. Those beautiful women surrounding Yang Feng, they were basically all from the Black Dragon Lizard, Black Dragon Serpent and other bloodlines families subordinates to the Black Dragon bloodline family. Every one of them had a gorgeous appearance and were extremely strong. If placed on Earth, then they'd be creme de la creme, never even giving ordinary people like Yang Feng more than a single glance. Now, however, they were trying to outstage each other in order to be in his good graces, desiring to get his favor. Feeling that, Yang Feng as an ordinary person, his vanity was greatly satisfied. A great beauty entered the palace. She had long crimson hair, a tall figure of 1.90 meters in height, curves in all of the right places, jade-like snow-white skin and emitting a terrifying life force. She had a prideful expression, as if a queen among plebes. As soon as the great beauty entered the palace, her terrifying life force attracted countless gazes. Just as her identity was discerned, those gazes became filled with dread, fear, and lust. That great beauty with long scarlet hair swept the beautiful women surrounding Yang Feng with a glance. She creased her eyebrows and cried out full of dignity, "You brats! Get out of my way!" The source of this scentent is freowebnovel.com. The beautiful women surrounding Yang Feng, they turned to look at the great beauty with the long crimson hair. Then, as if avoiding a venomous scorpion, bowed slightly in salute and stepped to the side with unwilling expressions. That great beauty walked before Yang Feng with a slight fragrance wafting from her and carefully sized him up for a moment. She revealed a trace of a satisfied and aloof smile, then extremely frivolously extended a hand and clutched Yang Feng's chin. "Not bad. It really is a top-notch concentration of Black Dragon's bloodline. Rex, henceforth, you're the man of Anusha." Yang Feng suddenly got a queer feeling, as if it was difficult to say who was the man and who was the woman. He instinctively reached out with his hand to knock aside Anusha's. Although he liked beauties, yet deep inside he felt strongly about male chauvinism. He was unwilling to become a woman's plaything, no matter how beautiful she was. "You're an amusing little fellow. You actually dare to resist me. So interesting." Anusha gave a charming smile. Her body at once released an extremely terrifying life force, and the terrifying pressure of a pinnacle level 3 warlock instantly erupted and shrouded Yang Feng. Under the terrifying pressure of a pinnacle level 3 warlock, Yang Feng's complexion changed greatly, crazily operating Black Dragon morph as it was recorded in the secret method. With extreme difficulty withstanding Anusha's terrifying pressure, he stood tenaciously while firmly clenching his teeth. "Enough! Stay your hand, Anusha. He still isn't yours." Just then, a frigid voice came from the side and an exceedingly beautiful woman approached in large strides. She had long blue hair, eyes like clear sapphires, and a fiery and sensual figure. She was exuding the atmosphere of an icy beauty. The exceedingly beautiful woman exuded an incomparably formidable life force, canceling Anusha's terrifying pressure and giving Yang Feng a chance for respite. Anusha turned around and sneered, "Carol, you want to fight with me over this man? As someone who had always been callous with man, have you also begun to have amorous feelings? Or do you require a handsome and strong stallion with a high concentration of bloodline for the Grimpt family?" Carol's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of anger and she said coldly, "Shut your mouth. Otherwise, I don't mind inviting you to the Death Arena to duel to the death." The Death Arena was a space specially prepared by Black Dragon Empire for the local Warlocks to duel to the death. Once there was an enmity among Black Dragon Empire's Warlocks that couldn't be resolved, then they would choose to duel in the Death Arena. If Warlocks were to be discovered dueling somewhere else, then they would suffer from the Black Dragon Tower's fierce persecution. That was because the destructive force from a battle between Warlocks was too terrifying. If Warlocks were let to duel wherever they pleased, then they would implicate and kill large amounts of mortals. Anusha smiled kindly and said, "I've hit the mark, right? Carol, you're tiring yourself out. You should live more. I've taken fancy to this handsome little, but I'm not willing to duel with you to the death. As long as you pay me a suitable amount, then it's all right for me to leave him to you. The world is so big. There is no shortage of handsome men, and I also won't lose out because of this one. However, you have to at least let him help me conceive several children. This is my bottom line. You want to divide this handsome little stallion among yourselves? How about I also get a piece of him? I won't ask for much. It'll be enough as long as we conceive between 8 to 10 children." A beautiful woman dressed in a purple evening dress. She had a tall figure, short golden hair, gorgeous appearance, and exuded a valiant temperament from all over. She approached with a cold smile, emitting terrifying life force comparable to that of a pinnacle level 3 warlock. The 3 terrifying female pinnacle level 3 warlocks unleashed their terrifying life force, making a commotion in the gathering venue. The complexions of the people changed slightly and quickly left the vicinity of those 3 women. In the center of that terrifying life force, a wine cup suddenly reacted. It turned and twisted, countless teeth were sprouted and then strangely crushed it. A tablecloth also suddenly warped and twisted, 2 arms were sprouted, and then the formidable force tore it into tatters. Under the spirit force of the 3 terrifying level 3 warlocks, all kinds of strange phenomena were ceaselessly born, then tore and crushed the things in their vicinity. Chapter 92, Fierce Battle During the Party. Chapter 92, Fierce Battle During the Party. Translator, Xuanhuan. Anusha suddenly smiled in provocation and said, "Angelica, Carol wants to hog this handsome little stallion. Wouldn't it be better for us to join forces, defeat her, give her a lesson, and then split the rights to the little stallion evenly? How about that? Let me use him first, then when you feel like having children, then I'll lend him to you. Anyway, you currently don't want to have any children." The corners of Angelica's mouth rose slightly, and she said with a smile, "Good idea. Carol, what do you think? If you want to hog this little stallion, then I can only join forces with Anusha. After all, a little stallion with such a high concentration of bloodline is rarely seen in 100 years. My request isn't high when I want to have children. Let me use him temporarily." Yang Feng quietly listened on the side, being somewhat speechless. Carol, Anusha, and Angelica, every one of those 3 females was extremely outstanding and had a strong aura. In Tyrannid subcontinent, such experts were only second to great warlock experts and had extremely respectable statuses. Having 3 such remarkable women fighting over him originally would have made Yang Feng very happy. But for him to only be treated as a mating stallion, even if the women were even more beautiful, he still didn't want it for this to continue. Yang Feng coughed mildly and said softly, "Cough, you're discussing the private using rights of a person. Could it be that you don't want to ask about the will of the person in question, namely me?" Anusha swept Yang Feng with a glance, and her beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of ridicule. "Your will? Little stallion, only after promoting to a level 3 warlock will you be qualified to talk with us on equal terms. But if you can promote to a great warlock, then me becoming your slave also wouldn't be problem. Even with a top-notch concentration of Black Dragon's bloodline, promoting to a great warlock also wouldn't be so simple. promoting from a level 3 Warlock to a Great Warlock, that also entitled an enormous transformation and the evolution of the life form. The gap between a level 3 Warlock and a Great Warlock was as enormous as it was between a level 3 Apprentice Warlock and a level 2 Warlock. There were merely 7 Great Warlocks in the entire Black Dragon Tower. Those 7 Great Warlocks was the accumulation of several millennia. During that long period of time, 100 geniuses with top-notch concentration of Black Dragon's bloodline had arisen. Among those geniuses, 8 of them died before maturing, 90 promoted to level 3 Warlocks, yet only 2 promoted to Great Warlocks. The difficulty when promoting to a Great Warlock could very well be imagined. Anusha's group of 3 women clearly just fancied the power of the bloodline inside Yang Feng's body. They didn't have the slightest bit of feelings towards him, not even talking about love at first sight, only considering the naked interest. Nevertheless, I still think that I should have the right to speak with you on equal terms. Yang Feng gave a faint smile. His mind moved. A black radiance shot out from the dimensional crest that he was wearing and fell on the ground. 1.70 tall, covered in a layer of ancient dragon scales, with sharp blades growing from the critical points and looking like a human-shaped dragon. A dragon-scaled mechanical warrior appeared beside Yang Feng. freewebnovel.com. That dragon-scaled mechanical warrior fully operated the micro-super high-energy crystal propulsion furnace. A terrifying life force exuded from its body. It was very strange yet comparable to that of a pinnacle level 3 warlock. It contended against the 3 women, not wanting to be outdone, and tenaciously protected Yang Feng. The 3 women looked at the dragon-scaled mechanical warrior. Their beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of dignity. They were able to perceive the terrifying fluctuations of power emitted by the dragon-scaled mechanical warrior. It could totally contend with them. Yang Feng said with a slight smile, "In the ruins that I obtained the dragon's bloodline essence, there I've discovered some small toys. This small toy should enable me to interact with you on equal terms. Right? Amazing. I really admire you. Rex, look, I'm beautiful, right?" Anusha gave an exceedingly fascinating and charming smile, and at once emitted traces of fluctuations of magic, veiling everything. Very beautiful. Yang Feng's eyes suddenly dulled. He was only thinking that Anusha standing before him was exceedingly beautiful, everything about her perfect, being 100 times more beautiful than the woman of his dreams. The goddess before his eyes was the person that he loved the most in his entire life. He was willing to offer her anything and everything. Even if he had to die for her, he also wouldn't hesitate. Seeing Yang Feng's infatuated appearance, the corners of Anusha's mouth rose slightly, her beautiful eyes flashing with a touch of contempt. Host is being eroded by magic power. Attack immediately and exterminate the source of the magic power. A red light flashed in the dragon-scaled mechanical warrior's eyes. It crazily operated its micro-super high-energy crystal propulsion furnace. It abruptly shot forward and lightning-fast clawed at Anusha's heart. Anusha's complexion changed greatly. Her life force stirred, and she was instantly enveloped by a layer of black dragon scales. Simultaneously, formidable life force surged in front of her and gathered into an incomparably formidable protective cover that was capable of withstanding level 3 spells. The dragon-scaled mechanical warrior's claw stabbed at the protective cover. The claw that was inherited from the ancient black dragon Vidarnia had part of its power. It instantly tore the protective cover apart and easily piercing through it, then fiercely stabbed at the location of Anusha's heart. The claw was blocked for a split second by the astonishing defensive strength of the black dragon scales. In that split second, Anusha's body instantly broke into more than a dozen shavings of black fog, and she disappeared from where she had stood. Those more than a dozen shavings of dark fog quickly gathered in another place and formed Anusha. There was an enormous bloody wound where her heart was, almost revealing it. After Anusha had been beaten back, traces of refreshing air currents were transmitted from the dark green pearl hanging from Yang Feng's neck, nourishing his soul and freeing him from Anusha's charm spell. After Yang Feng was freed from Anusha's charm spell, his eyes flashed with a touch of fierceness. He flicked his finger. A dragon-scaled mechanical warrior quickly flew out of his dimensional crest and extremely viciously pounced at Anusha. Simultaneously, a level 8 shielded robot emerged before Yang Feng. lifted its shield and a level 3 protective cover spread from it, directly protecting Yang Feng. Under the protection of the level 3 protective cover, even if it was a level 3 spell, it also wouldn't so easily affect Yang Feng. For curses and charm spells, it would be also very difficult for them to pass through the level 3 protective cover and influence Yang Feng. "Stop it, Rex!" Anusha's pretty complexion changed. She uttered a shriek, reached out with her finger, and instantly cast the level 3 spell Dragonfire Fireball. Immediately, a basin-sized Dragonfire Fireball, formed by the compression of high-energy fire elemental particles, whistled towards the dragon-scaled mechanical warrior. The level 3 Dragonfire Fireball was one of the most destructive level 3 spells. Even if a level 3 Warlock were to be hit by it, one would also take great damage. One such level 3 spell could destroy a huge building. Most up-to-date novels are published on fguyuyobinovel.com. The dragon-scaled mechanical warrior trusted its claw and clutched. Its right claw erupted with a formidable life force. Its claw directly clutched the level 3 Dragonfire Fireball, which then exploded. The terrifying explosion had merely jolted it 3 or 4 steps back. Carol and Angelica stood on the side. The two women cast spells to block the aftermath of the explosion from the level 3 Dragonfire Fireball. They saw as the dragon-scaled mechanical warrior's claw clutched the Dragonfire Fireball. Their beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of dignity. A level 3 Dragonfire Fireball, even someone strong as they were, one still wouldn't dare to withstand it with their own body, but use a defensive or neutralizing level 3 spell. Chapter 93, A Wager. Chapter 93, A Wager. Translator, Xuanhuan. The other dragon-scaled mechanical warrior arrived behind Anusha and fiercely kicked through the defensive force field around Anusha, hitting her body and knocking her to the ground. She spat out a mouthful of blood. "You fucking golems, now you've angered my..." Anusha's figure shook and she instantly shot to her feet, her eyes surging with a terrifying wrath, and an incomparably terrifying life force was released from her body. Once the terrifying life force of a pinnacle level 3 warlock was fully released, except for official warlocks, everyone in the main hall felt oppressed. Some even felt being choked. Carol creased her eyebrows and said coldly, "Enough, Anusha, if you continue to be so unbridled. Then I'm also going to act." Angelica gave a slight smile and also came forward. "Anusha, stop making trouble. Otherwise, I'd also have act against you." Yang Feng waved his hand. The two dragon-scaled mechanical warriors shot back to his side, coldly staring at Anusha. Streams of spirit force, from level 3 warlock rank experts, swept this place and locked Anusha. Promotion for bloodline warlocks was far more easier than for orthodox warlocks. The amount of level 3 warlocks in Black Dragon Empire could be said to be the highest among the 6 great powers. Anusha's complexion changed several times. She finally curbed her aura, then casually flicked and a radiance shrouded her body. After the radiance disappeared, she was wearing a new evening dress. She then said with a cold laugh, "Rex, little brother, all right? I admit that you have the right to talk with us on equal terms." Anusha's eyes shifted and locked on the dragon-scaled mechanical warriors, flashing with incandescence. "By the way, I'm really fond of your golems. How about selling one to me, your big sister?" Anusha had personally experienced the strength of the dragon-scaled mechanical warriors. One-on-one, she had the confidence to shred a dragon-scaled mechanical warrior. One-on-two, the outcome would be difficult to predict. Such powerful mechanical golems made her drool over them. Carol, Angelica, as well as the rest of the people in the hall, their gazes landed on the dragon-scaled mechanical warriors, brimming with envy and greed. One such dragon-scaled mechanical warrior could totally act as the inheritance of a warlock's family and be passed down for several hundred or even more than 1,000 years. Even if it was a level 3 warlock with a dragon-scaled mechanical warrior, they could greatly upgrade their battle prowess and their survivability. "These golems are not for sale." Yang Feng shook his head slightly and said, "Dragon-scaled mechanical warriors were manufactured by using ancient black warlock Vedarnia scales. They were unique biological and mechanical battle units. Yang Feng had only 5 of them after manufacturing the mechanical black dragon. He naturally couldn't easily acquire such formidable battle units." The radiance in Anusha's eyes dimmed slightly. Then she stared at Yang Feng and a touch of a perilous radiance flashed deep within her eyes. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with a touch of a peculiar radiance. He gave a slight smile and said, "However, we can make a wager. Doesn't Black Dragon Empire has a gambling arena for one's followers? Anusha, if you can come up with goods that are equal in value, then we can make a wager on 20 followers. The estimated price of this golem is 50 million magic stones. You can come up with items of equivalent value, such as gold or level 2 and level 3 spell models, scrolls, golems, and other goods, and have a wager with me. If you win, then this golem is yours." "All right." Anusha contemplated for a moment, then gave a charming smile and flipped her jade hand. A delicate crystal box appeared on her jade hand. That crystal box automatically opened, revealing a magic core the size of a chicken's egg engraved with profound and mysterious patterns. Anusha gave a charming smile and said, "This is the magic core of the extraordinary life form Sphinx Lava Direwolf with battle prowess comparable to great warlocks. On top of that, 15 or veins with at least 30,000 tons of iron or an aberrandom. That should be enough, right?" The magic core of a great warlock rank extraordinary life form was of exceedingly high value, but it couldn't compare to a level 3 warlock rank battle golem. After all, there were still many great warlock rank extraordinary life forms in Tyrannid subcontinent. Moreover, some nucleus of extraordinary life forms would flow over from the main continent. For Yobnul.com. Yet that level 3 warlock rank battle golem was different, and it had formidable battle prowess. It could become an inheritance of a warlock family, as well as a trump card for level 3 warlocks. Except for some formidable alchemists, there was basically no one that could refine level 3 warlock rank battle golems. The best alchemists in Tyrannid subcontinent could merely refine level 2 warlock rank battle golems. Great warlocks could actually refine level 3 warlock rank battle golems, but they would need to at least spend 70 million magic stones or even more. Yang Feng said with smile, "It's enough." Although the value of the goods that Anusha came up with couldn't compare with that of Yang Feng's dragon-scaled mechanical warrior, but Yang Feng was extremely interested in the Sphinx Lava Direwolf's magic core. That was also one of the reasons why he didn't haggle. A handsome young man with short golden hair, a tall and sturdy figure, with graceful bearings and a tyrannic aura emitting from between his eyebrows. The man smiled and walked towards Yang Feng. "Rex, I'm very interested in your other golem, this gamble. Let me also join, okay?" Rains used a secret art to directly transmit his voice. "This is my second brother Johann. He has the cultivation base of a pinnacle level 2 warlock. He's also one of the biggest hindrances for me to become the emperor of the Black Dragon Empire. You have to be careful." New novel chapters are published on fgeriwebnovel.com. Yang Feng smiled slightly and said, "As long as you can come up with enough magic stones, then there's no problem in you joining." John smiled and said, "I think that a marquisdom that can be passed from generation to generation, with a population of 5 million people, should be worth no less than 50 million magic stones. Right?" The territory of a marquisdom was as big as the combined territory of 3 earldoms. That would be approximately an area of 1,500 square kilometers. It was equivalent to 3/10 of Steel City's area. Moreover, there were still 5 million people coming with the marquisdom. That was definitely a very prosperous marquisdom. If one excelled at business, then one could gain 10,000 magic stones in commodities each year from that territory. The reason why Steel City could only have a yearly revenue of 3,000 magic stones was because all the veins of or within its territory were entirely claimed by Steel City itself. Moreover, Yang Feng didn't engage in business in his sphere of influence. The 3,000 magic stones was merely the revenue from taxation. Of course, the revenue would be small. Also, large amounts of people had fled his Steel City sphere of influence. Additionally, the surrounding powers had established an economic blockade with him. An aristocrat was equivalent to the local tyrant in their own fief, holding power over the fates of 5 million people in his territory. Moreover, all the veins of or in their fiefwold basically belonged to the lord. Therefore, the worth of the marquisdom that Johann came up with as his wager was definitely not inferior to 50 million magic stones. Chapter 94, The Emperor of Black Dragon Empire. Chapter 94, The Emperor of Black Dragon Empire. Translator, Zayamoj. Yang Feng smiled and said, "Indeed, a marquisdom that can be passed from generation to generation. Its worth would not be less than 50 million magic stones." Johann smiled at Rains and said, "Rains, my dear younger brother, how about we also use this chance and make a wager?" Rains' eyebrows creased slightly, revealing a hint of embarrassment. Anusha's family, the Beniwia family, was a royal family of Black Dragon Empire. It had a heritage of more than 2,000 years. Although she looked like a 25 or 26-year-old beautiful woman, but in reality, her age had already exceeded 5 centuries. Although she was unable to make a breakthrough and promote to a great warlock, but with her strength, few level 3 warlocks could be a match for her. The family's power was even greater. Its followers were counted by the thousands, with even level 3 warlocks submitting to her. New novel chapters are published on freewebnovel.com. Anusha, Carol, and Angelica, the 3 women were the most outstanding geniuses from the young generation of the Black Dragon Empire. If the title of Emperor of the Black Dragon Empire wasn't controlled by Antony's bloodline, then they would definitely be the strongest contenders for the position of Emperor. The battle between the followers of Anusha and Yang Feng, it was obvious that Yang Feng didn't stand a chance. Yang Feng transmitted his voice. "Agree to it. Use the elixirs that I gave you as a wager. The outcome is on me. If it's a loss, then I'll give you another batch of elixirs." Rains smiled slightly and said in provocation, "All right, Johann, I'll make a wager with you this once. I'll use 10,000 vials of the Blue Mirage Banshee elixir, 10,000 vials of the Mermaid Tears elixir, and 10,000 vials of the Dragon Blood elixir as a wager. My dear older brother, can you come up with so much money to do a wager? Of course, as a younger brother, I can make some small concessions. You can come up with magic stone, gold coins, iron or veins, food, rare magic metals, and warlock knowledge to use as the payout." Johann's pupils constricted slightly. His smile also receded slightly and his eyebrows froze. He pondered for a while and laughed lightly. "My dear younger brother, it seems that you have secretly fostered a group of capable pharmacists. All right, I'll wager with you. If the payout isn't limited to magic stones, then I still can gather this small amount." Johann, as one of the successors to the title of Emperor of the Black Dragon Empire, not only has he huge wealth, but his mother's family possesses huge power. Additionally, in the Black Dragon Empire, there was a large flock of warlock families attached to him. If the means of payout were not restricted, then he could come up with such a large amount. Angelica gave an exceedingly fascinating and charming smile and said, "So amusing. Let me also take part. All right? Rex, I wager that Anusha wins. If she wins, you then have to help me conceive 10 children. You'll belong to me until the 10 children are born. If you win, I'll help you conceive 10 children. How about it?" Yang Feng shrugged and said with a smile, "Sorry, but those stakes are too insincere. I'm unable to accept them." Carol said frigidly, "Angelica, I'll wager with you. I wager that Rex wins. If I lose, I'll give you all the level 3 spell models I have. If I win, you'll give you all the level 3 spell models you have." Spell models were very expensive. The highest-ranked spell models that Warlock College Antalya had currently released were all level 1 spell models. Even the level 1 spell models, they would also cost 8,000 magic stones. There were no level 2 spell models being sold. Eunice held more than a dozen level 2 spell models, yet had no level 3 spell models. As she hadn't practiced cultivation until the level 2 warlock boundary, it was natural that her family hadn't provided her with level 3 spell models. Rains only held level 2 spell models as well, without any level 3 spell models. An intact level 3 spell model could definitely be auctioned for at least 1 million magic stones in a large-scale warlock auction. As a bloodline warlock, every time Yang Feng promoted in rank, he would automatically get an innate spell such as Black Dragon Scale. After he promoted to a level 3 warlock, he would automatically acquire an innate level 3 spell. However, when solely relying on innate spells, one's means to dealing with enemies would be too weak and one would basically be unable to become a peak expert of one's rank. The reason why warlocks could become peak experts of their ranks was because they held more spells and would have more means to deal with enemies. Dealing with different enemies required different trump cards. Carol and Angelica, for them to bet their level 3 spell models, that was a high-stakes wager. Angelica's eyes flashed with a touch of a peculiar murderess. She gave a charming smile and said, "Carol, since you have so much confidence in Rex, then I'll wager with you." 5 people stood in the center of the party, a strange atmosphere pervading them, the surrounding people not daring to come over. "His Majesty Solomon has descended." Following a resonant voice, and awe-inspiring young men under the protection of 4 young guards entered the main hall. The young man had a tall and sturdy figure, was handsome and wore a magnificent imperial robe. The young man, who looked merely 23 or 24 years old, extraordinarily handsome and brimming with dignity. He was Solomon, the emperor of the Black Dragon Empire. The lifespans of bloodline warlocks by far exceeded orthodox warlocks. Additionally, bloodline warlocks looked quite young. With a top-notch concentration in Black Dragon's bloodline, even though Solomon was several centuries old, yet he still looked to be 23 or 24 years old. "Respectful greetings, Your Majesty." Everyone bowed slightly in salute towards Solomon. The status of warlocks was sky-high in Tyrannid subcontinent. Even when facing the emperor, they only needed to bow slightly in salute. Only when having faith in gods and formidable beings from other planes, only then would one practice the customs of expressing one's humility, such as kowtowing, prostrating oneself. Solomon's keen eyes, as if blades, sized Yang Feng from top to bottom. He then said in a deep voice, "So you're Rex." Yang Feng bowed slightly in salute. "Respectful greetings, Your Majesty." Solomon suddenly smiled and said, "Just as I've arrived. I've heard your wager. So amusing. Let me be the witness of your gamble. Okay? 5 days later, I'll open the royal gambling arena for your wager. Therefore, you all should prepare properly. Okay? How about death matches as the gambling style with 20 followers below level 3 warlock?" Yang Feng smiled and said, "It's fine with me." Anusha gave a charming smile and said, "It's also fine with me." With regards to any power, level 3 warlocks were extremely important military resources and wealth. Therefore, the battles would be between followers that were only level 2 warlock rank experts. If it was a Mall principality such as Fernandro Principality, the death of any level 2 warlocks, it would be like the heavens above the entire warlock family collapsing. Black Dragon Empire was the headquarters of bloodline warlocks. Their amount of level 2 warlocks by far exceeded that of the other 6 great powers. Even the death of 40 level 2 warlocks wouldn't damage the strength of the Black Dragon Empire. Such was the depth of Tyrannid subcontinent's first empire. Chapter 95 Carol. Chapter 95 Carol. Translator, Xuanhuan. After the party, a pretty young girl came to Yang Feng and said respectfully, "Sir Rex, my family's mistress, Lady Carol, invites you for a chat." "All right." Yang Feng pondered for a moment and then followed behind that young girl. In a luxuriously and refined room with ignited ambergris, a special condiment capable of promoting a warlock's spirit force, Carol was neatly sitting on a sofa. Her pretty complexion was ice cold and she was emitting an ice queen-like aura. Carol said icily, "Anusha and Johan, they have a lot of very strong followers. I can lend you 20 level 2 warlock rank followers." Yang Feng asked curiously, "One can borrow each other's followers in such a wager?" Carol said chilly, "Any means could be employed as long as one wins. The 3 of them will definitely make an alliance to select the 20 strongest level 2 warlocks. 20 pinnacle level 2 warlocks acting as one, they could contend against and even kill a level 3 warlock." Yang Feng smiled and said, "I'm very grateful for your good intentions. However, I'm confident that I'll beat them." Carol stared at Yang Feng for a while, then clapped her hands. Immediately, 10 beautiful maids entered. They exuded formidable fluctuations of power comparable to level 1 warlocks. Each maid held a stack of thick books. Carol said frigidly, "These are notes with experiences on level 1 warlocks promoting to level 2 warlocks. It's a present for you. Any materials that you require to practice cultivation, you can list them to me." Every part of those notes with experiences on level 1 Warlocks promoting to level 2 Warlocks was incomparably precious. In the Black Cottage, there were also some notes on level 1 Warlocks promoting to level 2 Warlocks, but they were the most precious treasures of Bonnie, Black Cottage's master. Except from him, not one of his students was qualified to view them. Yang Feng felt somewhat queer. He then asked curiously, "Cough, Carol, could it be that you fell in love with me at first sight?" Although Carol's temperament was ice-cold, but she was truly a rarely seen beauty. Even though beauties were like clouds among Black Dragon's bloodline warlocks, but she was still one of the finest ones. In tonight's banquet, with her appearance and temperament, there was no other beauty that could hold a candle to her. Anusha and Angelica paled somewhat in comparison to her. If such an ice-cold beauty were to fall in love with him at first sight, that would greatly satisfy his vanity. Carol thought for a moment and then gave Yang Feng a blow while saying seriously, "I just don't hate you." Carol said seriously, "As the head of the Grimt family, I enjoy the resources provided by my family. At the same time, I also need to fulfill the duties entrusted to me by my family, that is to give birth to descendants with pure bloodline. That is the duty that needs to be fulfilled by every member of any bloodline warlock family. You have a top-notch concentration of Black Dragon bloodline, and I also don't find you to be loathsome. Therefore, you're qualified to become my man, join my Grimt family, and become the father of my children. I'm still a virgin, thus my spirit is clean, so you shouldn't have any issues with me." Yang Feng shook his head slightly and said in a deep voice, "I don't want to join your Grimt family. I want you to marry me and be my woman." Carol said with slightly creased eyebrows, "Unless you can promote to a great warlock, otherwise it's absolutely impossible." Yang Feng said resolutely, "Then I'll promote to a great warlock. But it's not so easy to promote to a great warlock. If promoting from an apprentice warlock to a warlock is exceeding the limit of humans and taking a step in the direction of extraordinary life forms, then promoting from a level 3 warlock to a great warlock, that is equivalent to taking a step in the direction of mighty existences such as gods, fiends, and formidable ancient beings. In many different planes, greats warlock rank experts are known as legends. Historically, they were titled as peerless experts. The Black Dragon Tower has a heritage of several millennia. As far as I know, we currently have only 7 great warlock rank experts. Anusha, and Angelica, we've already been at the pinnacle level 3 warlock boundary for 200 years, unable to take a step forward. In the Black Dragon Tower, as far as I'm aware, there are already more than 400 people that have stopped at the pinnacle level 3 warlock boundary." Carol spoke calmly as she analyzed. The further one was down the warlock path, the harder it was to continue. The promotion from apprentice warlock to warlock was a huge hurdle. But the promotion from level 3 warlock to great warlock was even more difficult, just like a natural chasm. Even though bloodline warlocks had greater advantages than orthodox warlocks, but it was still very difficult to promote to a great warlock rank expert. Yang Feng said with a slight smile, "If it was even more difficult, I would still a great warlock. After all, my goal is to obtain eternity." Carol sighed faintly. "Eternity! This is the ultimate goal that we warlocks pursue." Unfortunately, even the 8 great warlock emperors who were astonishing geniuses and unparalleled experts, they also fell in the long river of time. The path to eternity might simply not exist. In the world of warlocks, the 8 great emperors were all formidable beings. They were astonishing geniuses and unparalleled experts that coerced countless planes. But the 8 great warlock emperors also fell in the long river of time. The warlock dynasties that they founded also collapsed one by one. In the world of warlocks, the 8 great warlock emperors were publicly acknowledged as the strongest beings, as well as beings that trod the furthest on the warlock path. With terrifying power and endless knowledge, they were still unable to withstand the erosion of time, falling in the long river of time. Now that the 8th warlord dynasty had already collapsed, the times of glory were no more and seeking eternity became tantamount to lunacy. Yang Feng gave a faint smile and didn't argue. Eternity was only his final goal. He also knew that it wasn't that easy to tread this path. Yang Feng said, "These notes are very important to me. I wish to use magic stones or equal in value elixirs to pay for them. Simultaneously, I also wish to use magic stones or equal in value elixirs to exchange for some of your level 2 spell models and level 3 spell models, as well as all kinds of knowledge required for warlock cultivation. Carol said, I can just give them to you. Yang Feng said seriously, I wish to trade through equivalent exchange. I'm not too keen on taking advantages of my friends. Carol gave Yang Feng a somewhat queer look and said, Are you sure? I'm sure. Carol snapped her fingers. Mana! Yes. A sensual beauty wearing a maid's outfit with long brown hair and the cultivation of a level 1 warlock stepped forward and said with a smile, These notes on level 1 warlocks promoting to level 2 warlocks. The auction price for each part is at least 200,000 magic stones. There are 100 parts, so the total is 20 million magic stones. A level 2 spell model, the price is 800,000 magic stones. A level 3 spell model, the price is 4 million magic stones. Yang Feng coughed lightly and said somewhat embarrassingly, Cough? Can I get it on credit? I'll pay you after the wager, as I don't have so many magic stones. The most up-to-date novellas are published on freoubinovel.co. The corners of Carol's mouth rose slightly, revealing a trace of a lovely smile. Chapter 96, Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena. Chapter 96, Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena. Translator. Zayamoj freoubinovel.co. Black Dragon Empire's Imperial Palace. In a study. Solomon was sitting upright on a golden chair, holding a book in his hands and casually flipping through its pages. Suddenly, Solomon said lightly, Jim, have you investigated Rex's identity? The space in a corner distorted slightly and a middle-aged man slowly appeared. He was wearing black tight-fitting garments, had a somewhat ugly appearance and a gloomy expression, and was exuding the terrifying life force of a pinnacle level 3 warlock rank. The man said respectfully towards Solomon, Your Majesty, his identity has been investigated clearly. Rex was a free citizen of Moha City of the Black Dragon Empire. After a stroke of luck, he obtained the inheritance of a rogue warlock and went to settle down in the obscure mountain range. When he emerged from the obscure mountain range, he had been promoted to a level 1 warlock and possessed Black Dragon's bloodline. Solomon said indifferently, Is the intelligence reliable? This content is taken from freoubinovel.com. Jim said, It is. You can leave. Yes, Your Majesty. Jim's body immediately disintegrated and formed into countless shavings of fog that disappeared from the study. Time passed, the 5 days went by in a blink. Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena was huge. It could accommodate 100,000 people. That huge Royal Grand Arena was normally used for betting on life and death fights. Savage beasts captured from all over as well as some extraordinary life forms comparable to official warlocks. They would be thrown into this Royal Grand Arena and fight to the death against humans. While the aristocrats of the Black Dragon Empire would watch the bloody fights and bet on their outcome. This huge Royal Grand Arena would produce a tremendous revenue each year for the Black Dragon Empire. This is the Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena. So imposing. As Yang Feng entered the Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena, he was severely shocked by the majestic arena. Currently, this incomparably majestic arena was filled with aristocrats from all over the Black Dragon Empire. The surface area of Black Dragon Empire was 3 times that of Earth's China, and it had a heritage of several millennia. The number of aristocrats in the Black Dragon Empire was also astonishing. The capital streets were even more packed with aristocrats. If one were to throw a brick there, one would be able to hit quite the number of them. At one end of the incomparably majestic Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena, a suspended dais was built. On top of that suspended dais sat the ministers of the major departments of the Black Dragon Empire, as well as aristocrats with Black Dragon's bloodline. Yang Feng, as an aristocrat with Black Dragon's bloodline, followed the other aristocrats with Black Dragon's bloodline that sat in the most honorable place, the suspended dais, overlooking from up high the many aristocrats down below. Sitting down below aristocrats like Yang Feng, who had Black Dragon's bloodline, were aristocrats with Black Dragon Serpent's bloodline, Black Dragon Lizard's bloodline, and other bloodlines affiliated with Black Dragon's bloodline. Under the guidance of a maid, Yang Feng arrived above the suspended dais. With a glance, he saw Carol, Anusha, and Angelica. The three women were sitting among the 36 seats only second to the emperor's. In the Black Dragon Empire, in addition to the bloodline of Anthony, the Tower Master of Black Dragon Tower, there were still 36 other extremely powerful Black Dragon bloodline families. Within the 36 Black Dragon bloodline families, experts were as common as dirt, and there was a sizable amount of level 3 warlocks. 3 families even gave birth to great warlock rank experts. They were the pillars of the Black Dragon Empire. Below those 36 seats sat the Grand Princes, the Imperial Ministers, and the Princes. The Black Dragon Empire was different from the Warlock College Antalya. The Imperial Ministers of the Black Dragon Empire were all official warlocks. The warlocks firmly controlled the entire secular world. The entire Black Dragon Empire was under the control of warlocks. The secular world of Warlock College Antalya was mostly controlled by mortals. Warlocks were high above it all, conducting all kinds of research, seeking truth and pursuing the warlock path. Next was Yang Feng's seat, representing the lowest existences on the suspended dais. After Rains saw Yang Feng, he quickly called out, "Rex, come and sit next to me." The princess sitting beside Rains stood up immediately, threw a coquettish glance at Yang Feng, then went down and sat on Yang Feng's seat. Yang Feng also naturally sat beside Rains. Once Yang Feng sat down, he then felt a malicious gaze. He turned and saw that Johann was looking at him. On the suspended platform, where influential people were as common as dirt, Johann didn't do anything unwise, only showing Yang Feng a slight gentleman's smile. Yang Feng also returned a hypocritical smile. His Majesty Solomon arrived. Solomon, under the protection of 6 experts emitting fluctuations of life force of level 3 warlocks, slowly climbed the suspended dais. "Respectful greetings, Your Majesty." Everyone in the entire royal arena stood up and bowed slightly its salute towards Solomon. Solomon gave a slight smile, climbed to the top of the suspended dais and sat on the imperial throne, then said indifferently, "Sit down." Solomon hadn't spoken too loudly, but his voice seemed to have sounded beside every person's ear. Only then did everyone in the arena sat down. Solomon said lightly, "Start the notarization." Carol waved a hand. A maid stepped forward with a stack of long-prepared documents. Everyone involved in the wager sent someone with stacks of long-prepared documents and all kinds of treasures for a public notary inspection. In fact, those documents and treasures have already been notarized in advance, right now being only a formality in front of Solomon. After everything was quickly notarized, those notaries quickly retreated. Solomon said lightly, "Begin!" In that Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena, 2 gates on opposite sides were opened. The 2 groups of followers of Anusha and Yang Feng, 20 people each, walked out respectively from within those 2 gates. A presenter went to the center of the Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena and said in high spirits, "Today, the 2 teams standing here are respectively the followers of Duke Anusha and Earl Rex. They will carry out life and death battles on the Dragon Battle Isle. This wager entails a huge sum of more than 100 million magic stones. 1. This is definitely the most exciting wager since a decade ago. Here, at the Royal Grand Arena, the handicap bets on this fascinating wager are also opened. The odds of victory for the group of Duke Anusha are 1 minute and 1.1 second. The odds of victory for the group of Earl Rex are 1 minute and 1.3 seconds. The odds for the group of Earl Rex being completely wiped out and everyone in the group of Duke Anusha surviving are 1:4. The odds for the group of Earl Rex being completely wiped out and at least 15 people in the group of Duke Anusha surviving are 1:3. The odds for the group of Earl Rex being completely wiped out and at least 10 people in the group of Duke Anusha surviving are 1:2. The odds for the group of Duke Anusha being completely wiped out and everyone in the group of Earl Rex surviving is 1:20. The odds for the group of Duke Anusha being completely wiped out and at least 15 people in the group of Earl Rex surviving is 1:10. The odds for the group of Duke Anusha being completely wiped out and at least 10 people in the group of Earl Rex surviving is 1:4. Thus, ladies and gentlemen, pick up your betting devices and start betting. Let us enjoy this crazy, exciting and merry wager that's rarely seen in a decade. 1. Previously, the title mentioned was a Viscount. Now it's an Earl. Chapter 97 Druid. Chapter 97 Druid. Translator, Xuanhuan. The atmosphere of the entire Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena became instigated and excited because of the words of the presenter. Fluctuations of spirit force unbridledly descended on the followers of the two groups, scanning them. The 100,000 aristocrats in the Royal Grand Arena, there were close to 10,000 official warlocks among them. This was precisely the depth of the first empire, the Black Dragon Empire, in Tyrannid subcontinent. The presenter casually snapped his fingers and cast a spell. A radiance glimmered in the center of the Royal Grand Arena and then gathered into a light screen. The light screen displayed the various handicap bets. Among them, Anusha's team winning, the amount of bets was the highest, the total exceeding 60 million magic stones. Closely followed by the various handicap bets of Rex's group being completely wiped out. The several handicap bets of Rex's group winning, the number of bets could be counted on one's fingers. Clearly, there was no one optimistic about the prospects of Yang Feng's group. Anusha was one of the heads of Black Dragon Empire's 36 great Black Dragon bloodline families. She herself was a formidable being with the cultivation of a pinnacle level 3 warlock, and adding on her family's great power, she could casually pick countless experts from among her family. The aristocrats of the Black Dragon Empire were not stupid. They naturally wouldn't squander their magic stones by placing a bet on such a rookie like Yang Feng. Yang Feng felt somewhat covetous as he looked at those tremendous odds. Unfortunately, I don't have enough magic stones. Only then would I make a killing. After the increase of the total of bets became very slow, only then did the presenter said with a slight smile, "All right, let's finish with the bets. Let's officially start this life and death wager rarely seen in a decade." Finished speaking, the presenter silently recited an incantation and then casually pointed with his finger. A dazzling light radiated in the center of the Royal Grand Arena, shrouding 40 followers. A huge gate appeared in the center of the Royal Grand Arena. It opened and turned into a huge black hole, directly devouring the 40 followers. Suddenly, a huge light screen manifested itself in the center of the Royal Grand Arena, displaying the overview of an island. "Put this on. I guarantee that you'll be pleasantly surprised." Rains gave Yang Feng a mysterious smile and handed him a pair of crystal eyeglasses. Yang Feng put on the pair of crystal eyeglasses and looked towards the huge light screen, only to see that huge light screen very strangely divide itself into 41 screens, among which the most central screen displayed the panoramic view of the Dragon Battle Isle, while the other 40 screens respectively displayed the whereabouts of the 40 warriors. Yang Feng's mind moved. The screens constantly switched, quickly switching to the screen with the whereabouts of the warrior that he wanted to see, and zoomed in until it felt like the warrior was before his eyes. High-tech, truly high-end. Yang Feng's heart shook, getting a deeper understanding about the civilization of warlocks. In Tyrannid subcontinent, many places were impoverished and lagging, looking like medieval Europe. But at the summit of the world where the warlocks dwelt, it was in fact extremely flourishing, not the slightest bit lacking when compared to the modern Earth, and even by far surpassing Earth in some aspects. Dragon Battle Isle was a small, long and narrow island. It had an approximate radius of more than 300 kilometers, nearly equivalent to a viscountdom. With the Dragon Battle Isle's dense forest and its complicated topography, it was the best place to carry out battles. There would be more than a dozen extremely bloody close combat shows among warlock followers in the Dragon Battle Isle each year, being also the most exciting and the most brilliant matches. Anusha's group appeared on the Dragon Battle Isle. A warlock silently recited an incantation. The magic staff in his hands suddenly bloomed with green radiances that shrouded the members of his group. Under the shine from the magical green radiances, the entire small group of followers immediately transformed into bizarre trees. From looking at the huge screen, the members of Anusha's small group seemed to have disappeared in the middle of the dense forest. Only through the adjustment of the field of vision enabled by the special eyeglasses, only then could one see the real appearance of the members of Anusha's small group. From time to time, those bizarre trees would bloom with a magical light while casting spells to bless themselves. The presenter said extremely passionately, "That is the level 1 spell plant mirage, divination interference, spiritual scanning shield, brute strength, grace, magical detection disturbance. Heavens, that was a total of 21 spells. So awesome. Nothing less would be expected from Anusha's group. Perfect pre-battle spell blessings. A round of cheers for the perfect performance of Anusha's followers. Kill him. The waste that is Rex's group. Tear them to shreds. I've put a bet on your victory. Wipe them completely out. In the Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena, countless aristocrats issued crazy roars. The clamor from those terrifying roars seemed to be capable of capsizing the Royal Grand Arena. At least 95% of the Black Dragon Empire's aristocrats were supporting Anusha, as they placed weighty bets on her group. Anusha's group had finished casting spells to bless themselves. Suddenly, the figure of a tall and sturdy man with an ugly appearance twisted, at once changing to that of the level 2 extraordinary life form steel-plumed demonic eagle. Slapping his wings, he soared into the sky. The presenter said somewhat exaggeratedly, "That was the level 2 spell extraordinary life form morph. He's a druid. Oh God, this warrior of Anusha's team is a rare druid. This is a very rare way of practicing cultivation, although unable to compare with us warlocks, but extraordinary life form morph has its own merits. 500 years ago, after the last druid sect was exterminated by Savage Claw, since then, it was very difficult to spot a druid on our subcontinent. Duke Anusha was even able to recruit a druid to serve under her. Let us cheer for her charisma. Duke Anusha, you're the best. Rex, drop dead. Cheers once again erupted in the Royal Grand Arena. Anusha was a top beauty, a pinnacle level 3 warlock and the head of one of Black Dragon Empire's 36 great families. Her popularity wasn't something to which a nobody like Yang Feng could compare. In the Tyrannid subcontinent, there were some inheritances of wizards, magi, arcanists, druids, priests, and others. However, in this world dominated by warlocks, once the inheritances from other planes emerged and without being sheltered by someone, they then could only be eliminated, their knowledge plundered by warlocks and absorbed into their systems. Druids, wizards, magi, and arcanists, such beings basically didn't dare carelessly reveal themselves. Once revealed, they would be immediately captured by warlocks, have everything robbed from them, and then used in human experiments. It was extremely remarkable of Anusha, being able to recruit a druid to act as her servant. Chapter 98, Killing the Steel-Plumed Demonic Eagle. Chapter 98, Killing the Steel-Plumed Demonic Eagle. Translator, Xuanhuan. On the other side, Yang Feng's little group of followers also entered Dragon Battle Isle. From among the group of followers, 10 level 2 warlocks cast spells to bless the entire group. The other 10 people were great knights that had microchips implanted into them, for the purpose of Yang Feng exercising control over them. Those 10 great knights were purchased through Eunice from the slave market. In Tyrannid subcontinent, apart from the relative stability between the 6 great warlock groups, the other regions also struggled continuously among themselves. Those old and new warlock groups also clashed endlessly in order to vie over benefits. The 10 great knights were the slaves who came from among defeated forces. This content is taken from fgeribnovel.com. The 10 great knights pressed the dimensional crests that they wore on their chests. Tanks, self-propelled artillery, and anti-aircraft cannons continuously flew out from the dimensional crests and fell on the ground. The presenter of the Royal Grand Arena used exaggerated body language to express his amazement. Magic artillery? Magic chariots? The warriors in Rex's group gave us a huge surprise. They have come up with a lot of military weapons that I have never seen before. This results in a great increase in difficulty for me to comment. But I believe that quite soon we'll see those weapons in action as well as its purpose. What are those? What are those things? Are they new alchemical products? On the suspended dais, The bigwigs of Black Dragon Empire had also revealed traces of astonishment in their eyes. They've only seen magical artillery. As for weapons such as tanks, self-propelled artillery and anti-aircraft cannons, they had never seen them. When Anusha saw the tanks, self-propelled artillery and anti-aircraft cannons, a trace of an ominous foreboding welled up inside her. Angelica's eyebrows had also wrinkled slightly. This had already somewhat exceeded her calculations and left her somewhat restless. Johann also frowned and clasped his hands together in displeasure. His gaze shifted and fell on Yang Feng. Somewhat curious, Carol looked at those modern military weapons. Formidable.cm. Interesting. The corners of Solomon's mouth rose slightly, revealing a trace of a smile deep within his eyes. Solomon was the emperor of the Black Dragon Empire and wielded great power. Within the Tyrannid subcontinent, except for the domain pertaining to great warlocks, there was hardly anything that he hadn't seen. The weapons from Earth such as tanks, self-propelled artillery and anti-aircraft cannons, those gadgets were relatively interesting in his view. Once the many weapon flew out from the dimensional crests, the 10 great knights then automatically walked towards them and took their positions. The druid from among Anusha's group that had turned into the steel-plumed demonic eagle was flying in the sky. Relying on the steel-plumed demonic eagle's exceeding visible range and the extraordinary innate ability to discern the many different illusions, he searched around and very quickly locked on the position of Yang Feng's group. The druid in the form of an steel-plumed demonic eagle immediately faced upwards and issued a sharp and long cry. He waved his wings. Pitch-black feathers shrouded in wind force turned into arrows and pointed at Yang Feng's group. In an area the size of a viscountdom, with regards to mortal forces, they would require 1 or 2 days of search in order to discover the enemy. But with regards to the strange means of warlocks, searching for one's enemies was very easy as long as one learned the corresponding spell. The druid in the form of an steel-plumed demonic eagle, his enemy-searching ability was considered first class among level 2 warlocks. Open fire! Simultaneously, a great knight that deployed the over-the-horizon radar discovered the steel-plumed demonic eagle and ordered frigidly. From the anti-aircraft field, the anti-aircraft cannons rumbled. Countless blazes rose, while forming a rain of light, directly bombarding the steel-plumed demonic eagle. Not knowing what spells were added to the crystal eyeglasses, but Yang Feng could clearly hear the rumbling of the cannons as if he was there. Amidst the bombardment, the druid in the form of the steel-plumed demonic eagle flapped his wings and directly rose high in the sky. His speed soared to an extreme, traveling among the rain of light. The steel-plumed demonic eagle was extremely fast. The anti-aircraft cannon shells only managed to hit it twice. But the 2 shells were flicked away by the joint effort of its strong life force and its steel like feathers, without leaving any injury. Yang Feng felt a slight shiver inside. Amazing! Truly worthy of being called an extraordinary life form. So abnormal. Those were 37mm anti-aircraft cannons. Its shells could easily penetrate the thick steel plate of an assault helicopter. Humans, when bombarded by one such shell, would most definitely be disintegrated, and even an elephant would succumb to one of them. But that steel-plumed demonic eagle could easily withstand that shelling. Its defensive strength by far exceeded that of any known life form on Earth. However, the barrage of shellfire obviously had the ability to threaten the life of the steel-plumed demonic eagle, as the druid in the form of the steel-plumed demonic eagle could only soar high into the sky, not daring approach the anti-aircraft field in the slightest. At this moment, amidst the anti-aircraft field, blazes flashed among the guided missile launchers, launching surface-to-air laser-guided missiles and crazily bombarding the steel-plumed demonic eagle in the air. The druid in the form of the steel-plumed demonic eagle felt discouraged, continuously spinning, soaring, and using all kinds of outrageous maneuvers in the attempt of getting rid of the surface-to-air laser-guided missiles. But regardless of how it flew, it was still unable to get rid of the missiles locked on it. Boom! 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 The bombardment of the steel-plumed demonic eagle by the surface-to-air laser-guided missiles resulted in crazy explosions, with scorched feathers scattering and blood spraying everywhere. The druid in the form of the steel-plumed demonic eagle forcibly resisted the bombardment of more than a dozen missiles, then finally exhausted his strength and was directly blown into smithereens, resulting in the countless fragments falling from the sky. Amazing! They actually took care of an steel-plumed demonic eagle. A level 2 extraordinary life. Truly amazing. The steel-plumed demonic eagle is a raptor-type extraordinary life form. Its innate skill is steel feathers. The defensive strength of its feathers is even more tyrannical than that of steel. Furthermore, it soars through the sky, as long as it has its mind set on escaping. Then there wouldn't be anyone among level 2 warlocks capable of killing it. Those military weapons from Rex's group are so formidable. In the Royal Grand Arena, all the aristocrats were intimidated by this scene as well as successively discussed it. Although the extraordinary life form steel-plumed demonic eagle wasn't a match for a level 2 warlock, but it was still one of the most difficult to kill extraordinary life forms comparable to level 2 warlocks. Even some level 3 warlocks didn't have appropriate means of dealing with an extraordinary life form with such formidable resistance when it flew in the sky. Such an extraordinary life form was actually shot down by Rex's group. The Warlock Empire's aristocrats couldn't believe it. Chapter 99 Fierce Shellfire. Chapter 99 Fierce Shellfire. Translator Xuanhuan. Solomon revealed a smile with a hint of interest. Interesting. Level 2 extraordinary life forms such as steel-plumed demonic eagles were no more than pets when confronted with pinnacle level 3 warlocks with terrifying strength like Solomon. However, those surface-to-air laser-guided missiles being capable of getting rid of a steel-plumed demonic eagle still took him somewhat by surprise. New Envel chapters are published on freewebnovel.com. After all, level 2 extraordinary life forms were already considered very strong existences. Except for some products of peak alchemists, ordinary weapons were basically unable to threaten level 2 extraordinary life forms. Nothing more than a fluke. As long as our people close in on them, then those military weapons will be useless. Anusha's eyebrows creased tightly and traces of unclear foreboding welled up within her. She unceasingly comforted herself. Those tanks, self-propelled artillery, and other military weapons, they would be reduced to scraps once warlocks approached them. It was precisely because of warlocks being so powerful that military weapons seemed to decline somewhat in this world of warlocks. Extremely strange eyeballs took off into the air from the location of Yang Feng's group, peering in all directions. Those extremely strange eyeballs were the manifestations of the level 1 spell magic eye. Through it, warlocks could clearly perceive a radius of more than a dozen kilometers of their surroundings. The magic eye's range of visibility was extremely wide, but it didn't have the ability to see through illusions. The experts from Anusha's group, under the spell Plant Mirage, quickly proceeded towards the location of Yang Feng's group. Under the carelessness of the experts in Anusha's group, the man walking in the front, with a height of 2 meters and a bear-like build, crossed an infrared ray. Self-propelled artillery, 155mm heavy-duty howitzers, and multiple rocket launchers instantly adjusted their muzzles. Boom! 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 In a flash, terrifying shelling swallowed Anusha's group entirely, with terrifying explosions plowing their location again and again. Under the bombardment of the spread shelling, the people in Anusha's group simply didn't have any space to dodge, only being able to desperately cast defensive spells to withstand the bombardment. A huge earth wall rose from the ground and then was directly crushed into smithereens under the shelling. Defensive force fields suddenly appeared and then were blasted into pieces under the shell fire. Freeweb novel The CEO. A huge extraordinary tree iron rattan tree suddenly rose from below the ground. The countless rattans interlaced to form a protective wall to guard the location of Anusha's group. Just as the protective wall had formed, more than a dozen rockets in an instant bombarded the iron rattan tree, blasting it into pieces. Follow me. Charge and tear them to shreds. The man with the bear-like built roared angrily. His eyes crimson and his body at once swelled up. Holding a huge secret treasure shield, he growled madly like a savage and aroused the power of the secret treasure shield. A formidable defensive force field bloomed around his entire body, forcefully blocking shells falling from the air, while he madly charged towards the location of Yang Feng's group. The experts in Anusha's group followed behind the bear-like man and speedily advanced towards the location of Yang Feng's group, simultaneously employing defensive force fields in the same way as the bear-like level 2 warlock did. The bear-like level 2 warlock, under the all-encompassing shell fire, could only charge for less than 200 meters before his defensive force field immediately fell apart. The person itself was also blasted apart under the shelling. Once the level 2 Warlock with the strongest defensive force field died, the complexions of every expert in Anusha's group immediately changed greatly. 6 experts immediately rushed towards the location of Yang Feng's group while the other experts cast spells and escaped towards the rear. Boom! 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 The shell fire from the self-propelled artillery, heavy-duty howitzers and rocket launchers formed a grid, with countless shells pouring at the 6 level 2 Warlocks, plowing their location again and again. The 6 level 2 Warlocks that had charged only managed to survive for less than 30 seconds before being torn apart by the concentrated shellfire. The 12 experts in Anusha's group, thanks to their strange spells, took the opportunity and escaped the place that was under the shellfire. After the 12 experts from Anusha's group escaped the range of the infrared sensors, practically at the same time, the all-encompassing shellfire ceased completely. Without sensing a target, firing randomly would just waste shells. Amazing! Truly amazing. Those weapons are truly scary. Too awesome. Truly fierce. Every aristocrat in the Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena inhaled a mouthful of cold air, eyes brimming with shock, and many of them had their eyes brimming with excitement. The Black Dragon Empire had been already peaceful for more than 1,000 years. Therefore, such earth-shattering battles were rare. However, within the majority of bloodline warlocks flowed fierce and aggressive blood. Even the female warlocks were far more aggressive than the average person. Therefore, those aristocrats not only didn't find the battle scary, but rather felt that it was very amusing and extremely exciting, and even many female aristocrats were no exception. Anusha, Johann, and Angelica, when the 3 people saw that scene, their complexions at once became very unsightly. Rains gave a long sigh of relief, revealing a trace of a smile on his face. The corners of Carol's mouth rose slightly. A trace of a smile swept past the depths of her beautiful eyes. On the Dragon Battle Isle, after Anusha's 12 experts escaped the scope of the shellfire, like frightened birds hiding in Tibet for a long time, after they discovered that the all-encompassing shellfire didn't fall again, only then did they slightly heave a sigh of relief and join together in a hidden place within the woods. A tall figure with a handsome appearance, a seemingly very capable man, said with a gloomy expression, "Looks like we need to mobilize our final strategy. Vino, it's up to you." A middle-aged man with a thin figure gave a silent nod. He silently recited an incantation, flipped his hands. A palm-sized silver-white door at once emerged and bloomed with silver radiances. It expanded and suddenly became a 20 meters tall and 6 meters wide silver-white door. There were 108 sockets on top of the door. The middle-aged man somewhat bitterly took out 36 high-grade magic stones as well as 72 mid-grade magic stones and embedded them into the 108 sockets. At the same time, he silently chanted an incantation and pointed at the silver-white door. A silver spell radiance was emitted from the hands of the middle-aged man and fell onto the silver-white door. Suddenly, the silver-white door blossomed with incomparably bright silver radiances. The space inside the door twisted and distorted, setting off wave-like ripples. Chapter 100 Warlock Summoner. Chapter 100 Warlock Summoner. Translator, Xuanhuan. A level 2 extraordinary life-form giant flame rock centipede covered in a layer of flame-like red carapace. It was up to 4 meters tall and 100 meters long. Quickly crawled out from the silver-white door. The silver-white door rippled and flashed, and a level 2 extraordinary life-form 4-armed green jade praying mantis. It was up to 10 meters tall and had 4 blade-like arms. It was entirely green. The silver-white door practically didn't cease to ripple as level 1 and level 2 extraordinary life forms unceasingly crawled out of it. The presenter's eyes lit up and he said loudly, "Warlock Summoner! It's a Warlock Summoner! So amazing! Anusha's group is full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. They even have a Warlock Summoner. As long as Warlock Summoners are given enough time and resources, they alone constitute a terrifying army. However, Warlock Summoners require too much resources and it's too difficult for them to practice cultivation. They're really rarely seen. Anusha's group actually had a Warlock Summoner. That's too astonishing. Warlock Summoner. Haha. Rex's group is finished. She could even recruit a Warlock summoner. Really worthy of Duke Anusha. So wonderful. I can't wait to see Rex's group being overrun by a large mob of level 2 extraordinary life forms. When that Warlock summoner appeared, the mood of the Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena at once became enthusiastic. All the aristocrats at once became excited, looking forward to the victory of Anusha's group. Warlock Summoner was also one of the many paths for Warlocks though tread upon. Its focus lied on summoning arts, and its primary field of study lied in summoning formidable extraordinary life forms as well as devils, fiends and other formidable beings from other planes to this world with the purpose of fighting for the summoner. In order for Warlock summoners to employ summoning arts, they required the consumption of a large quantity of precious materials. Furthermore, if one was the slightest bit inattentive when summoning formidable beings from other planes, then one would suffer a backlash. Therefore, although Warlock summoners were formidable, yet they still slowly declined, with very few people specialized in treading on this path. Of course, there were also a lot of Warlocks that researched on the path of Warlock summoners, but they didn't genuinely specialized on this path. Yang Feng suddenly stared at Anusha and said, "Duke Anusha, that Warlock summoner summoned more than 20 extraordinary life forms. That's beyond the limits of this fight." Anusha gave a charming smile and said, "That Warlock summoner is really a level 2 Warlock. The skills of a Warlock summoner lie in their summoning arts. Naturally, the extraordinary life forms that he summoned are regarded as part of his battle prowess. It's definitely within the limits of this fight." Johann said with a complacent smile, "That's right, summons are part of a summoner's strength. That's the way Warlock summoners are. Rex, could it be that you don't even know this little bit of common sense?" Angelica gave a charming smile and said, "It's no wonder. After all, Rex, you haven't previously obtained any systematic knowledge. Come here. I'll properly educate you and let you become a remarkable Warlock." Yang Feng gave a faint smile, turned his head and put on his eyeglasses without saying a word, then coldly ordered within, "Activate Plan B." On the Dragon Battle Isle, the Great Knight rank experts touched the dimensional crests on their chests. Level 8 mechanical gunner robots equipped with a variety of heavy-type firepower and Level 8 beast-type bladed robots with 8 high-frequency oscillation blades appeared on the Dragon Battle Isle. Anusha saw those Level 8 primary battle robots, and a trace of an ominous foreboding welled up within her. Her pretty face froze and she cried out tenderly, "Rex, what's going on? So many golems. They already exceed the limits of 20 people." Johann's complexion also became somewhat pale, becoming extremely unsightly, his body shaking slightly because of his fury. He stared at Yang Feng, as if wanting to tear him to shreds. Angelica also stared firmly at Yang Feng with a cold gaze. Yang Feng gave a slight smile and his eyes flashed with a touch of ridicule as he said, "Duke Anusha, just as the summons are part of the strength of a Warlock summoner, naturally, alchemical golems are also part of the strength of an alchemist. Those golems were refined by alchemists, they belong to my followers and naturally are also part of my followers' strength. Just like a kind of secret treasure, or could I be wrong?" Anusha's pretty face froze and her eyes flashed with a touch of gloom. She gave a cold snort and didn't utter another word. In the presence of Solomon, as well as the many ministers of the Black Dragon Empire, Anusha could not lose her demeanor. One after another, extraordinary life forms walked out from that silver-white summoning door. There were altogether 36 level 2 and 72 level 1 extraordinary life forms. Anusha's group of Warlocks quickly blessed the 108 extraordinary life forms with a variety of buffs. After the 108 extraordinary life forms were blessed, their strength suddenly soared. After the Warlock summoner summoned the 108 extraordinary life forms in one breath, he swallowed quite a handsome amount of vials of elixirs and then pointed in the direction of Yang Feng's group. That 108 extraordinary life forms, a mob composed of different races, swiftly rushed towards the location of Yang Feng's group. Boom! 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 Those extraordinary life forms activated the infrared sensors that covered all over the forest. The artillery was immediately unleashed, with countless shellfire pouring down towards the extraordinary life forms. Under the dense shellfire, the extraordinary life forms were blown up to bits one after another. The summoned extraordinary life forms being killed one by one was resulted in the Warlock summoner having a splitting headache and spitting blood over and over again. Update D from frioubnovel.com. The summoned extraordinary life forms and the Warlock summoner that summoned them had a trace of a soul link between them. It didn't matter if a couple of them died, but if all of them died, then the summoner would also perish. Yang Feng saw the Warlock summoner's extraordinary life forms being crashed one at a time by the shellfire. He gave a faint smile and said, "So weak. They don't even have the ability to force my followers' mechanical golems to act. Truly weak." Anusha, Johann, and Angelica, when the three people heard that, their complexions became even more unsightly. "Beautifully done. Blow them up. Haha. Beautifully done, Rex's group. I support you. Blow them up. Dot." Most of the aristocrats in the Royal Grand Arena had their faces turn ashen, without uttering a single word. But those aristocrats that had casually put bets on Rex's victory, they were excited and crying out loud, seeming to have been injected with chicken's blood. "There's no other way. Now we can only activate the final plan." Among Anusha's group, a level 2 warlock completely shrouded in black armor said frigidly. The Warlock summoner trembled slightly within, then silently recited an incantation and pointed towards the silver-white door. Strange ripples then diffused from within the silver-white door. The extraordinary life forms summoned by the Warlock summoner speedily retreated and at lightning speed converged in front of the silver-white door. Chapter 101 Multiple Arm Troll. Chapter 101 Multiple Arm Troll. Translator, Xuanhuan. The Warlock summoner hesitated a moment. Then his eyes flashed with a touch of a vicious radiance and he spat out a mouthful of blood essence, spilling it on the silver-white door. At the same time, he took out a bloody gem and threw it into the silver-white door. Suddenly, the insides of the silver-white door surged with strange ripples. frioubnovel.com. The Warlock summoner silently chanted an incantation and pointed towards the silver-white door. The silver-white door at once emitted silver radiances which merged with the summoned extraordinary life forms. Those extraordinary life forms that the Warlock summoner had spent more than a century to collect. Their heads immediately burst open, and their entire life energy was extracted and merged with the silver-white door. Crap! When Yang Feng saw this scene, his complexion changed slightly. His mind moved and he passed down an order to the knights in the dragon battle isle. "Attack immediately!" A great knight pressed the dimensional crest on his chest and a huge metal box immediately flew out from inside of it. In an instant, 2 finger-sized cylindrical infrared life detectors were ejected from the huge metal box and shot towards the location of Anusha's group. When those infrared life detectors landed on the ground, soon after, infrared rays invisible to the naked eye interweaved and formed a big infrared grid, detecting the fluctuations of life force from all the large life forms. Boom! 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 The various artillery quickly adjusted their muzzles and countless shellfire extremely accurately hit the location of the silver-white door. As long as the silver-white door was destroyed, then the Warlock summoner would be screwed. Withstand! The Warlock covered in a black armor, who seemed to be the captain of the group. His complexion changed greatly and he hollered. A spell radiance flashed and a huge ice shield carapace suddenly appeared above the silver-white door. More than a dozen large-caliber shells detonated on the shell ice shield. The terrifying explosions blew the ice shield carapace to smithereens. Just as the ice shield carapace was blown apart, once again, a huge earth wall took shape, blocking above the silver-white door. The huge earth wall didn't even manage to stand for 3 seconds before it was blown to pieces. Visit frioubnovel.com for the Estenvel reading experience. One after another, defensive spells were quickly formed and then fiercely crushed by the shellfire. Under the desperate defense of the Warlocks in Anusha's group, they forcibly withstood that terrifying all-encompassing shellfire, displaying terrifying defensive strength that exceeded human capabilities. Just then, ripples surged inside the silver-white door and a freak walked out of the door. It was up to 10 meters tall. Its entire body was seemingly covered in a bronze armor, with 4 arms and a sinister appearance, emitting a terrifying life force from all over. Soon after the presenter saw that freak walking out of the silver-white door, he commented in a loud voice, "This is an tetra-armed troll from the extraordinary life form multiple-armed troll clan. Adult tetra-armed trolls have the terrifying power of a pinnacle level 3 extraordinary life form. This is a level 3 extraordinary life form. This warlock summoner is really amazing. He's even able to summon such a savage life form." It seems like the scales of victory are tilting towards Anusha's group. The multiple-armed troll clan was an extremely powerful race among many planes. It was not the slightest bit inferior to the dragon clan. The battle prowess of this tetra-armed troll might only be slightly inferior to the battle prowess of a level 3 bloodline warlock such as Anusha, who had Black Dragon's bloodline. Level 3 bloodline warlocks with other bloodlines were practically no match for it. Such an adult tetra-armed troll by itself could raise an entire small state to the ground. Tear them to shreds. Tear everyone in Rex's group to shreds. Go! Get rid of those good-for-nothings who only know how to use military weapons. Tear them to shreds. Grab them and tear them to shreds. I've put a heavy bet on you lot. Don't let me down. Get rid of those wastes. Seeing the tetra-armed troll appear, the atmosphere in the Royal Grand Arena once again begun to boil up. Countless aristocrats roared madly and clamored, their eyes crimson. The tetra-armed troll had the terrifying power to reverse the battle. Anusha, Johann, and Angelica, their complexions became a lot better at once. Rain's complexion became extremely unsightly. Carol's eyebrows also creased slightly. A short moment after the tetra-armed troll had walked out of the silver-white door, a pith-black palm with sharp claws suddenly extended from inside the silver-white door. It grabbed the head of the tetra-armed troll and casually pinched. Like pinching a chicken's egg, the head of the tetra-armed troll immediately burst. A bloody maw covered in sharp teeth and exuding a thick smell of blood extended from within the silver-white door. It bit down and directly swallowed the tetra-armed troll. After seeing that bloody maw, the complexions of everyone in Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena changed greatly. They could sense an endless evil aura being emitted from that bloody maw. The originally smiling expression of Solomon finally vanished, his eyes revealing a trace of graveness. When summoning beings from other planes, if the strength of the warlock summoner was lacking, then it was common for them to summon some terrifying beings from other planes. Those terrifying beings from other planes, many of them were naturally bloodthirsty. The moment they descended to this world of warlocks, they would torture and kill, devouring the flesh and the souls of all that had life. Some terrifying beings from other planes even had terrifying powers comparable to those of gods. In front of such a terrifying being, there wouldn't be anyone in the entire Tyrannid subcontinent that could be its match. After the bloody maw swallowed the tetra-armed troll, a head with 8 eyes with a sinisterly gaping maw on its forehead attempted to squeeze out of the silver-white door. The terrifying being bumped slightly against the top of the silver-white door. The silver-white door immediately trembled, producing countless cracks. It was about to collapse. Obviously, the silver-white door couldn't bear the energy consumption required for this terrifying being to cross planes through it. The stronger was the being to cross planes, the higher was the requirement in energy consumption. Therefore, it was very difficult for the true bodies of those formidable beings to instantly descend to a particular world. The warlock summoner had already spat a big mouthful of blood. His facial features at once aged by more than a decade. The 8 eyes of the horrifying being moved. It suddenly spat a jet-black gas from its maw. The gas fell on the ground. It gathered into a freak up to 6 meters tall, with 8 eyes and a bloody maw on its forehead. It had a jet-black body, appearing to be draped in a layer of ink-like black carapace. It had slender arms and legs, as well as sharp claws. That freak was the terrifying being's projection in this world. Chapter 102. The Projection of the 8-Eyed Freak. Chapter 102. The Projection of the 8-Eyed Freak. Translator, Xuanhuan. After the projection left by the terrifying 8-eyed being descended to this world, it inhaled. The level 2 warlocks in Anusha's group, regardless of their resistance, as if crickets and ants, were sucked in before the bloody maw closed. Shortly after, incomparably mournful and miserable shrieks were transmitted from the bloody maw of the terrifying being. Simultaneously, there were still several thighs continuously struggling and wiggling outside the bloody maw. Level 2 Warlocks were classified as extraordinary life forms with a terrifying life force. But that terrifying life force was also the reason why they suffer even more before dying. After that terrifying being devoured everyone in Anusha's group beside the Warlock Summoner. Only then did its true body retreated in satisfaction, disappearing inside the silver-white door. I'm Mandragul. Petty and lowly humans, offer me formidable flesh and souls. Otherwise, I'll eat you all. The projection of the eight-eyed terrifying being turned its head towards the sky and looked around. Its 8 eyeballs turned and twisted, and it said eerily. In an instant, the complexions of every warlock in the Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena changed slightly. They all felt as if the 8-eyed terrifying being was firmly staring at them. A terror rose from deep within them, as if they were a frog being stared by a snake. Yang Feng's complexion also changed slightly. He was full of fear towards that freak. It could even trace our location via magic power. That freak is truly too scary. The freak that could trace their location via magic power, its true body was definitely comparable to that of a godlike terrifying being. The complexion of the originally lively presenter also paled as his body shivered and his legs became weak. Boom! 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 After all the warlocks in Anusha's group had been devoured by the 8-eyed freak, the defensive spells that they had cast immediately collapsed. The dense shellfire immediately swallowed the terrifying freak. Interesting, are these the military weapons of this world? Unfortunately, they're nothing more than somewhat interesting toys. There's no way for them to wound me. A cold and cruel laughter was transmitted from amidst the explosions. Via an occult law, it passed through countless kilometers and reverberated beside the ears of everyone in Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena. The shells originally aimed at the silver-white door, under the effect of a strange power, had their trajectories offset and fell several hundred meters away from the silver-white door. In an instant, the terrifying explosions turned the space several hundred meters away from the silver-white door into broken bits, with enormous tattered craters everywhere. One could see that 8-eyed freak stand loftily in the center of the silver door, looking coldly at the sky, its 8 eyes flashing with bizarre radiances and a terrifying life force comparable to that of a pinnacle level 3 warlock diffusing from its body. Yang Feng stared at the 8-eyed freak and creased his eyebrows slightly. Such a powerful monster. The power it wields is completely beyond that of a level 3 warlock. Even a great warlock, if standing still, would also have their defense broken by the endless shellfire and then blasted into tatters. But as long as one was proficient in the application of all kinds of spells, then it was entirely possible to produce the same strange result as the one that the 8-eyed freak produced. The trajectories of the shellfire were directly twisted by the strange power of the 8-eyed freak, missing their target. It didn't need to waste too much power to withstand the destructive might of the shells blowing up. That's the only reason it could so effortlessly withstand the bombardment from the artillery. In terms of power application, it was on a completely different level. Ordinary level 3 warlocks couldn't compare to it. The projections of formidable beings from other planes, they were unmatched among the same rank, and it was extremely difficult to defeat them. The 8-eyed freak, 2 of its eyes emitted strange radiances, warping the trajectories of the various shells. The other 6 eyes turned and locked onto the experts of Yang Feng's group in the Dragon Battle Isle. Delicious flesh and souls. Such nice offerings. Mandragul's 6 eyes turned and it gave a sinister smile. Extremely strange radiances burst out from its 6 eyes. The bodies of the distant 6 level 2 warlocks trembled. Countless amounts of blood very strangely spurted out of the 7 orifices on their heads and joined with transparent souls, turning into blood arrows that in an instant flew towards Mandragul. After several short breaths, the 6 bloody arrows with the souls of the 6 level 2 warlocks flew into Mandragul's mouth, where they were chewed and then gulped down. The bodies of the 6 level 2 warlocks trembled and directly dropped to the ground, turning into 6 corpses. Everyone felt slightly chilly within after seeing this scene. On the Dragon Battle Isle, the complexions of the warriors in Yang Feng's group paled further. Their figures shuddered and their eyes were brimming with terror. Such a strange and cruel freak, it wasn't something that they could defeat. Just then, 20 level 8 beast-type bladed robots rushed from the forest and ferociously chopped at Mandragul with their high-frequency oscillation blades. A bunch of steel lumps. Let me tear you apart. Mandragul's eyes flashed with a touch of malevolence. Its figure shook, like a specter. It suddenly appeared behind a beat-type bladed robot and slapped its head. In a split second, that beast-type bladed robot was directly crushed from top to bottom, turning into countless parts shooting in every which direction. Mandragul's slap displayed the terrifying power that it wielded. Just a single slap completely shattered the insides of that beast-type bladed robot. Its central control core was also smashed by that slap. After the beast-type bladed robot was smashed by that slap, Mandragul's figure shook and it avoided the countless shellfire from the gunner robots. It extremely strangely appeared in front of another beast-type bladed robot. It pierced the left side of that bladed robot's chest with its claw, forcibly pulled out the central control core and casually burst it. As soon as the central control core of that beast-type bladed robot was burst, it then lost all of its power and fell weakly to the ground. Yang Feng felt slightly chilly within when he saw this scene. Such a terrifying freak. It even saw through the bladed robot's central control core, within such a short amount of time. Truly a freak. The location of the bladed robot's central control core was extremely well hidden. Even if level 3 Warlocks could destroy the bladed robots, they still wouldn't so easily discover their central control core. Mandragul merely took care of a single bladed robot before he identified the location of the bladed robot's central control core. Its perspicacity was simply shocking. This content is taken from fgaribnovel.com. Chapter 103 Victory. Chapter 103 Victory. Translator, Xuanhuan. Mandragul's figure flashed successively, easily digging out the central control cores of 6 bladed robots. The remaining beast-type bladed robots joined forces, but were still unable to even touch it. Just as Mandragul had arrived before the 7 beast-type bladed robots, its electronical eyes flashed red and the self-destruction bomb buried inside it instantly detonated. Almost at the same time, the remaining more than a dozen bladed robots simultaneously detonated the self-destruction bombs buried inside them. Boom! 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 The source of this content is fgaribnovel.com. Following the earth-shaking, terrifying explosions, within a radius of 1 kilometer, everything was completely engulfed by the shock wave from the terrifying explosions. Every level 8 beast-type bladed robot had a terrifying self-destruction bomb capable of blowing up a level 3 warlock buried inside them. The destructive might from the simultaneous explosion of the more than a dozen beast-type bladed robots was simply earth-shaking. Even life forms comparable to pinnacle level 3 warlocks would also be blown to bits once the slightest bit incautious. Was it killed? The aristocrats in the Black Dragon Empire's Royal Grand Arena were all scared and on edge. The terrifying Mandragul pulled at their deepest fears. Self-destruction? Interesting. However, in order to kill me, the might of the self-destruction would have to at least be several tens of times stronger. Only then might you kill me. Following the sinister laughter, Mandragul emerged from the smoke and ash with a disdainful expression. No! Impossible! But Mandragul's smile lasted merely for less than a second, suddenly giving way to dismay as it issued mournful cries. The Warlock summoner standing next to the silver-white door had his body suddenly shattered into countless fragments, his blood splashing everywhere. The silver-white door crumbled and burst apart in a flash after losing the support from the life force of the Warlock summoner. An extremely strange suction shrouded Mandragul's projection in the split second that the silver-white door burst apart, pulling it into the void. The reason why Mandragul's projection could exist in this world was entirely because the Warlock summoner was using the power of his life force to support the silver-white door. It lost the power to manifest itself and could only crumble and fade away once the Warlock summoner was dead, returning to its own world. The projection of a freak comparable to a god. Interesting, you shall be my research object. A voice was suddenly heard in the Dragon War Isle. An enormous claw, like that of a black dragon, forcibly seized Mandragul's projection from the void, threw it into a crystal ball, and then faded away. Yang Feng saw as Mandragul's projection was seized by that enormous black dragon's claw without any strength to resist, and he felt cold within. So strong. It was a hidden great warlock of the Black Dragon Empire. Really formidable. Silence reigned in the royal grand arena. The presenter quickly smiled and exclaimed after taking a deep breath. Every member in Anusha's group had died. As such, I declare Rex as the winner of this wager. Let's hear some cheers to this marvelous battle. Beautifully done. I've won the bet. I've put the right bet. All of a sudden, cheers as well as applause were heard inside the royal grand arena. Even the aristocrats that had lost their bets clapped, admitting that this was an extremely marvelous wager. The complexions of Anusha, Angelica, and Johann became very unsightly. Carol slightly sighed in relief. Rains couldn't suppress his joy and a smile overtook his face. Yang Feng also sighed slightly in relief. The terrifying being from another plane, summoned by the Warlock summoner of Anusha's group, had almost reversed the battle. If it were not for Yang Feng's level 8 bladed robots decisively self-destructing themselves and killing the Warlock summoner, then the remaining experts in Yang Feng's group would have been easily killed by Madrigal. Solomon said with a smile, "Rex, congratulations on your victory in this wager. But I'd like to know where those military weapons and golems came from." All the gazes congregated on Yang Feng, all of them brimming with incandescence. Everyone was very intrigued by those military weapons and their dazzling performance during the wager. "Your Majesty, I bought those military weapons and golems from the Steel City. I'm good friends with Yang Feng, the only kin of Steel City's city master. I can buy the golems with fighting strength comparable to that of level 2 warlocks for 1 million magic stones each. This is a self-propelled artillery. It costs 100,000 magic stones each, with 1,000 magic stones per shell. This is a heavy-duty howitzer. It costs 100,000 magic stones each, with 500 magic stones per shell. This is a multiple rocket launcher. It costs 50,000 magic stones each, with 500 magic stones per shell." Yang Feng passionately introduced. Yang Feng wouldn't mind selling his munitions on a wide scale. After all, they all had backdoors installed in them. If anyone were to attack him with those munitions, that would be spelling their own doom. Furthermore, the sale of those munitions would spell tremendous profits. If the construction cost of the self-propelled artillery were to be converted into magic stones, then each unit would cost at most 2 magic stones. The naked profiteering, which was Yang Feng asking 100,000 magic stones per unit, was for the purpose of ransacking those fat sheep in Black Dragon Empire. Solomon's enthusiasm was reduced by a lot after listening to Yang Feng listing up the prices. There were a lot of secret treasures made by alchemists in the Black Dragon Empire, such as magical artillery and steel golems. He had the wealth of the empire at his disposal. It's only natural that he would disdain those military weapons. Solomon contemplated for a moment and then said, "In that case, Rex, help me buy 10 golems with fighting strength comparable to that of level 2 warlocks as well as 10 units of all kinds of military weapons." "Yes, Your Majesty." Yang Feng smiled coldly within, while saying respectfully on the surface. Solomon buying those level 8 bladed robots and level 8 gunner robots was for the purpose of studying them and then making knockoffs of them. With the research capabilities of the Black Dragon Empire, as long as they have the actual object for reference, then they were definitely able to come up with a knockoff. But Yang Feng naturally had methods and ways of encrypting those military weapons as well as misleading with regards to the materials they're made of. Even if Solomon got a grasp of his primary battle robots, but the manufacturing cost would definitely be sky high. They casually exchanged a few sentences before Solomon got up and immediately left. A notary holding several large bags with documents delivered them to Yang Feng, Rains, and Carol respectively. When Anusha, Angelica, and Johann saw this scene, their complexions became extremely unsightly. freowebnovel.com. Anusha and Angelica fared a little better. As the heads of 2 great families of the Black Dragon Empire, this little bit of damage wasn't enough for them to make them bleed. But to Johann, this loss greatly damaged his power. Anusha and Jessica directly turned and left. Johann quickly adjusted his frame of mind and walked before Yang Feng with a trace of a smile on his face. "Rex, congratulations on your victory." Chapter 104, Demonic Snake Fortress. Chapter 104, Demonic Snake Fortress. Translator, Xuanhuan. Rain stepped forward and said with ridicule, I also must thank you, Johann. It's really generous of you to gift Yang Feng with a marquisdom. As your younger brother, I take pride in your generosity. Johann's face twitched slightly before he said with a forced smile, Rex, I'm very interested in your military weapons. How about selling me a batch? Yang Feng was slightly surprised. He pondered for a moment before nodding and saying, All right. What Yang Feng lacked the most was magic stones. It's only natural that he would let those fat sheep that asked to be ransacked that easily off. Even though Rains had won a large amount of Johann's magic stones, yet Yang Feng felt that it wasn't enough. Johann very quickly brought Yang Feng to a room where he speedily drafted a contract for a batch of munitions in the value of 30 million magic stones under the witness of a notary. It was stipulated that Yang Feng was required to deliver the munitions within 3 months. The most up-to-date novels are published on freowebnovel.com. Black Dragon Empire, Satsuma Marquisdom. In a remote valley of the western Thundercloud Mountains, there was an enormous crevice up to several tens of kilometers long and several kilometers wide. Underneath that enormous crevice was the underworld, the paradise for all kinds of exiled dark races. Fruobnov.com. According to legend, during the period of the Third Warlock Dynasty, Demonic Divine Dynasty, some fiends, devils, and gods escaped from the human warlocks and established the rebel headquarters known as the Underworld with the help of a peerless secret treasure. Fiends, devils, and gods had gathered in this rebel headquarters. They attempted countless times to rebel against the human warlocks, all the while fighting fiercely for several millennia. Ultimately, all the rebels were either suppressed, sealed, or killed. Throughout the entire main world, a lot of places with insufficient stability got affected by the fights of the countless experts and were broken off, forming subcontinents. Tyrannid subcontinent was one of them. There was also an underworld in Tyrannid subcontinent. The countless fiends, devils, and gods gathered in the underworld during those days had hatred and resentment towards humans. As such, a lot of places had restrictions with great killing power, strange phenomena, and all kinds of assemblies meant for targeting humans. It was very difficult for humans to survive in a subcontinent's underworld. The various pets and different races that escaped from the human warlocks gathered in the underworld, forming an extremely formidable power. First layer of the underworld, in a place more than a dozen kilometers away from the edge of the enormous crevice that leads towards the surface world. The majestic fortress Demonic Snake Fortress was built there. This demonic snake fortress was the Black Dragon Empire's bridgehead in the underworld. In the underworld, there were countless precious resources that didn't exist in the surface world. Some of the different races' slaves were precious goods that sold like hotcakes in the world of humans. For instance, the gorgeous and coquettish dark elves were nothing more than common goods in the underworld. But after being captured, brought to the surface world, and then sold to the human aristocrats, they would definitely become their favorite playthings. In addition to that, there were still countless precious extraordinary plants, ancient life forms that were practically extinct in the surface world, and all kinds of extremely precious mineral resources. Humans campaigned ceaselessly against the races in the underworld in order to get access to those precious resources. At the same time, they continuously carried out trades in between battles, with both parties acquiring the items that were useful for them. The demonic snake fortress was not only the humans' bridgehead, but also an enormous trading center in the underworld. The Black Dragon Empire could get more than 20 million magic stones worth of taxes and all kinds of extremely precious cultivation resources each year from the underworld. Demonic Snake Fortress, in a dark private room. Beside the table sat a middle-aged man and a gorgeous dark elf. The middle-aged man had a tall and sturdy figure, was dressed in a pitch-black armor, and emitted a terrifying life force comparable to that of a level 3 warlock. The gorgeous dark elf was dressed in a black leather armor that only covered the 3 key places, leaving vast stretches of dark glossy skin exposed. A transparent crystal ball was placed in the middle of the table. The extremely gorgeous dark elf looked flirtatiously at the middle-aged man and said coquettishly, "I'm so bored. Hubert, I've been staying here for more than a dozen days. It's so boring. Right? How about we have some proper fun?" Hubert swept the dark elf with an ice-cold glance and said coldly, "Don't provoke me, Aina, or else I'm gonna cut a bitch." Dark elves were naturally lewd. They would frequently capture human males and males from other formidable races, bring them to their lairs to copulate, and then birth all kinds grotesque freaks. Quite a few human warlock neat freaks and chauvinists were extremely disgusted with life forms such as dark elves, treating them just like dogs or pigs. Aina reigned in her seductiveness and whispered, "Such a blockhead." The room at once fell into a deep silence. All of a sudden, ripples surged on the surface of the transparent crystal ball, and then distinct characters appeared on the surface. Hubert carefully glanced at those characters. His eyebrows creased slightly before he said coldly, "Notify your lowly fellows, set out 3 days later." "All right." A touch of delight flashed deep within Aina's eyes. She took out a crystal ball, silently recited an incantation, and pointed towards that crystal ball. In an instant, the black radiance from a spell hit that crystal ball, and then she directly reported towards that crystal ball. On the night of the same day, the most elite 30,000-strong demonic snake legion stationed in the demonic snake fortress immediately left the fortress with countless supply carts. The entire demonic snake fortress went into panic at once, with large amounts of adventurers and demonic snake fortress inhabitants crazily escaping the demonic snake fortress. 3 days later, a coalition of dark elves, cavemen, gnomes, dwarfs, goblins, ogres, as well as a variety of large life forms easily took over the demonic snake fortress, the capital of the Black Dragon Empire. Ever since defeating Anusha in the wager, Yang Feng felt like a fish in water within the Black Dragon City, very easily blending in the aristocratic circle of Black Dragon bloodline warlocks under Rain's lead. A lot of Black Dragon Empire's aristocrats actively sought him, wishing to purchase all kinds of weapons. The beast-type bladed robots with battle prowess comparable to that of level 2 warlocks were his best sellers. The price of a beast-type bladed robot that was comparable to a level 2 warlock was at 1 million magic stones. Many aristocrats were unable to come up with such a large amount of magic stones. However, they had large amounts of gold coins and a variety of ore-in resources. They were extremely willing to use the various ore-in resources and trade them for a beast-type bladed robot that was comparable to a level 2 warlock. Yang Feng also happily ransacked those fat sheep. He signed all kinds of contracts and sent a steady flow of resources back to Steel City. Furthermore, he had sold 20 beast-type bladed robots, as well as 5 million magic stones worth of high-energy crystals that acted as a source of energy for the beast-type bladed robots in a single breath. With the haul of the various or the majority of munitions factories in Steel City that were originally in a state of rest because of the limited raw materials at once recovered their vigor. Every munitions factory issued mechanical rumblings, unceasingly manufacturing primary battle robots. Yang Feng's power was practically increasing by the day. Chapter 105 Satsuma Marquisdom. Chapter 105 Satsuma Marquisdom. Translator, Xuanhuan. The Gardens of Rain's Manor. Yang Feng held Judy with one hand and embraced Eunice with the other, leisurely and comfortably viewing the blossoms. "Fucking Johann. Rex, your title and territory are ready." Rains had a gloomy expression as he sat beside Yang Feng, his voice somber. "However, that fucking Johann tempered with things. Your Viscountdom and Satsuma Marquisdom that Johann lost to you are connected." Yang Feng was somewhat baffled as he asked, "It isn't good?" Connecting a Viscountdom and a Marquisdom would make it very easy to manage, while dividing the territory would make it troublesome by contrast. Rains said with a gloomy expression, "The demonic snake fortress guarding the entrance to the underworld in the territory of the Satsuma Marquisdom was occupied 2 days ago. Those fucking underworld's races captured the demonic snake fortress. Only 100,000 odd of the 500,000 residents had escaped back to the surface world." Yang Feng's eyebrows creased at once and his eyes flashed with a touch of graveness. "According with the Black Dragon Empire's laws, you need to recuperate the occupied demonic snake fortress as the Lord of Satsuma Marquisdom, or you'll be stripped of your aristocratic title and all your territory in the Black Dragon Empire. Normally it wouldn't be a great deal, but according to the intelligence gathered by our spies in the underworld, the Dark Elves had mobilized a large amount of races in the underworld in order to start a holy war against humans. The Satsuma Marquisdom will surely suffer a violent attack from the underworld's different races for being one of the entrances between Black Dragon Empire and the underworld. No wonder Johann would so straightforwardly come up with a marquisdom for the wager. It turns out that he wouldn't suffer any damage regardless of winning or losing. Rains said while gnashing his teeth. The other races that dwelt in the underworld were capable of contending against the humans in the Tyrannid subcontinent for many years without being conquered. Their strength could be well imagined. The holy war launched by those underworld's races was definitely a disaster to be feared for the humans of the Tyrannid subcontinent. Nobody knew how many trump cards those underworld's races that had occupied the underworld for many years had. The ancient warlocks of the 8th Warlock dynasty used the underworld as a means of gaining experience for low-level warlocks. Modern warlocks weren't as formidable as the ancient warlocks of the 8th Warlock dynasty. Yang Feng creased his eyebrows slightly and said, "Then how long can I still stay in Black Dragon City?" Rains said with a somber expression. 10 days. The aristocratic senate has already issued an inviolable order for you to leave for the Satsuma Marquisdom and take charge of the counterattack on the demonic snake fortress in 10 days. Yang Feng was like a fish in water in the Black Dragon City, with large amounts of munitions being sold every day. Rains also received huge benefits from Yang Feng. Once Yang Feng was forced to leave the Black Dragon Empire, then Rains would be as powerless as a severed arm, no longer able to contending against Johann. Eunice's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of anxiety as she suggested, "Master, the experts in the underworld are as numerous as clouds. In the recent millennia, at least 16 great warlocks of our Tyrannid subcontinent had gone missing while exploring the underworld. It is presumed that they had all died in the underworld. It is too dangerous now that the underworld's races had launched a holy war. It would be better for us to immediately leave the Black Dragon Empire and avoid this storm. At least 16 great warlocks fell in the underworld." A touch of shock flashed through Yang Feng's expression. Every great warlock was extremely powerful. They were even known as legend rank experts in the other planes and could leave their names in history as great individuals. 16 of such powerful beings had actually fallen in the underworld. It could be well imagined how dangerous it was in there. Rains said with a somber expression. "At least 27 to be more precise. This is the exact figure obtained from the records of the Black Dragon Empire. Black Dragon Empire also had 5 of its great warlocks fall in the underworld." Yang Feng contemplated for a moment and then asked in curiosity, "Why do those great warlocks keep leaving for the underworld?" "The underworld has many extremely precious magical metals, extraordinary plants, and ancient life forms. A lot of the magical metals that have almost been extinct in the surface world are very common in the underworld. There are also a lot of precious resources very beneficial for great warlocks. That's the only reason a lot of great warlock would leave to explore the underworld. Reportedly, there are adult black dragons in the underworld. Several great warlocks of the Black Dragon Empire could only enter the underworld in order to slaughter black dragons and extract their bloodline essence. In this millennia, Black Dragon Empire had succeeded in slaughtering dragons 3 times as well as had lost 5 great warlocks. It is also only because of the 3 times that we have succeeded in slaughtering dragons that our Black Dragon Empire could become the greatest power in the Tyrannid subcontinent. Rains said unhurriedly, "Black dragons." Yang Feng's eyes shined slightly. Yang Feng had the power of the ancient Black Dragon's bloodline. In case the power of the ancient Black Dragon's bloodline could devour enough bloodline essence, then there would be a trace of hope for it to evolve into a genuine ancient Black Dragon's bloodline. Once Yang Feng's bloodline evolved into that of a genuine ancient Black Dragon's bloodline, his potential would evolve and become that of a Starry Sky Warlock. Update D from FRYOUBnovel.com. Just that, it was not so simple to slaughter dragons. Every black dragon was comparable to a great warlock. They were very sly and wouldn't allow Yang Feng to use a swarm of primary battle robots to swarm and kill them like the sealed Vedarnia did. Eunice promptly urged, "Master, the Holy War represents an endless religious war. Since the Dark Elves started the Holy War, then this implies a terrifying war where they won't stop until they reach their goal. The entire foundation of the Dark Elves will be put to use. Even great warlock rank experts might fall in this holy war. These types of religious lunatics are entirely impervious to reason. Even if their Lord God decreed for them to commit suicide, then they would commit suicide. Yang Feng's eyebrows creased. Only now did he realize why Johann would so decisively give him a precious marquisdom. Johann definitely didn't wanted to lose Satsuma marquisdom in vain. It didn't matter if Johann had previous ties with the Dark Elves, as they were as thin as paper in front of the Holy War. If Johann's power was completely consumed in the war with the Dark Elves, then he basically would lose his chance at the title of Emperor of the Black Dragon Empire. This Johann is so decisive, to the point that it's frightful. Such an enemy is the most difficult to deal with. Furthermore, he had just ordered a large amount of munitions. He could resell them at a profit and simultaneously weaken my military might. This guy is really formidable. Yang Feng suddenly understood why Johann immediately after the wager went to order large amounts of munitions, and he shuddered somewhat within. Yang Feng pondered for a good while before finally making his decision. I've made up my mind. I'll leave for Satsuma marquisdom 10 days later. freewebvl.com. Yang Feng turned and said, Eunice, I require your power. Eunice said with a lovely smile, Yes, master. I'm willing to devote myself for your cause. Chapter 106, Landing in Satsuma marquisdom. Chapter 106, Landing in Satsuma marquisdom. Translator, Xuanhuan. Bailon City was the capital of Satsuma marquisdom and was located in the center of the marquisdom. Bailon City was a large city in the Satsuma marquisdom, its population reaching up to 800,000 people. At this time, the outside of Bailon City was crowded with countless refugees. The underworld's allied forces commanded by the Dark Elves had attacked the surface world and had easily breached the demonic snake's fortress. This information at once frightened countless humans, with large amounts of aristocrats and freedmen rushing towards Bailon City. A 20-meter-long black magic carpet appeared in the sky. Everyone on the ground immediately looked up at the black magic carpet in the sky, a touch of reverence flashing in their eyes. Only beings that exceeded mortal limitations such as warlocks could ride a secret treasure like the magic carpet. Yang Feng looked down from the black magic carpet, taking in the entire view of the ground thanks to his extraordinary eyesight. Yang Feng said with some surprise, There are actually people maintaining order. That's truly surprising. 8 warriors maintained the order in front of the city gate, guiding the crowd of refugees into Bailon City. Yang Feng had already received the information that Johann had completely withdrawn all his forces from Satsuma marquisdom. Most of Bailon City's forces had already been evacuated. He originally had imagined that he'd find an utterly chaotic Bailon City. Yet the reality was different. That magic carpet was a secret treasure belonging to Eunice. Although she was merely a pinnacle level 1 warlock, but she was a bloodline warlock and possessed a lot of treasures. Eunice smiled slightly and explained, It's not surprising, although Satsuma marquisdom belonged to Johann, but there are still a lot of properties belonging to aristocrats and merchants. Of course, they would organize themselves and maintain order in order to protect their own assets. Yang Feng looked somewhat regretfully at the warlock towers on the city wall and said with a slight sigh, Unfortunately, these warlock towers are useless after the majority of warlocks evacuated. As the capital of Satsuma marquisdom, Bailon City had 9 5-story warlock towers built above the city wall. If there were 9 level 3 warlocks overseeing the 9 5-story warlock towers, then they would be even able to contend against great warlocks. Unfortunately, all of Bailon City's great warlock families had already followed Johann and left the city. Only a few lesser aristocrats remained. Therefore, the staff quota of the 9 5-story warlock towers basically couldn't be filled, and their terrifying power capable of contending against great warlocks couldn't be displayed. There were no valiant warlocks defending. Therefore, Yang Feng and his party easily flew into Bailon City on the magic carpet and continued towards the palace. Fire was rising from the palace. Yang Feng looked at the palace, only to see several hundred thugs entering the palace as well as setting it on fire. Simultaneously, countless feces, urine and other disgusting things were thrown into the palace along with uninterrupted cries and curses. The palace was unlike a warlock tower. It was the place where Johann enjoyed mortal pleasures. There was a large neutralization tower capable of completely neutralizing the formidable life force released by level 3 warlocks built in the palace, so that the formidable life force released by level 3 warlocks couldn't combine with the various buildings and form all kinds of strange phenomena. It was precisely because of this that those thugs could only break into the palace and didn't dare to break into the warlock towers. So troublesome. Kill them all. Yang Feng frowned slightly and ordered coldly. The kneel-sitting Judy sitting beside Yang Feng pressed slightly the dimensional crest on her chest and 10 level, for human-shaped bladed robots immediately flew out from it. They then landed on the ground and immediately rushed towards the palace. Warlock! A warlock arrived! Everyone run! Suddenly, terrified cries and incomparably mournful shrieks were emitted from the palace. The more than 300 thugs inside the palace were massacred by the expressionless bladed robots before long. Those watching the palace from the shadows successively inhaled a mouthful of cold air when they saw this scene, realizing that a character not to be trifled with arrived at the Satsuma Marquisdom. Blood flowed in rivers troughed the entire palace, with a heavy stench of blood pervading it. After leaving Eunice to manage the affairs of the palace, Yang Feng took Judy, Xuanhuan and 10 level, 4 knight rank mechanical golems to stroll around Bailon City. Eunice possessed extremely pure ancient star rock crow's bloodline. She was not only a genius in cultivation but also very intelligent and proficient in management. She had a huge industry in Southern States coalition, with the economic lifelines of quite a few principalities under her control. If she wasn't worried about Aldrich extracting her bloodline, then she would have already broken through and promoted to a level 2 warlock with her talent. Eunice's power could be imagined when a formidable level 1 warlock born from a taboo stone like Xuanhuan wasn't her match. Yang Feng felt assured in handing Eunice the management of Satsuma Marquisdom's affairs after becoming aware of her talents. Steel City was in an immaculate state under 3,796 charge, with the only drawback being the lack of flexibility. There was no flexibility with the territory development and the autonomous operation. This was its sole weakness. Yang Feng felt that the perfect combination would be by building an organized regime through the union of Eunice's flexibility and 3,790 SIXS subordinate robots. Save me! Help me! All of a sudden, the voice of a girl crying out in distress was emitted not too far in front from Yang Feng. Read latest chapters at freowebnovel.com only. Yang Feng looked at the direction from where the voice came only to see 4 sinister-looking scoundrels with playful expression surrounding a young lady and tearing apart her clothing, reducing her to tears and leaving her clothing in tatters. Such a pretty girl, even more beautiful than Judy, although her figure is slightly worse than Judy's. Yang Feng swept the young lady with his gaze and his eyes brightened slightly. Motherfucker, what you looking at? A blonde scoundrel with a face covered in pockmarks turned and swept Yang Feng with a glance, then took out a dagger and gestured at Yang Feng before saying menacingly, "Scram! Otherwise, your father am going to stab a bitch to death." The rest of the scoundrels also took out their daggers and loudly threatened the surrounding residents. Everyone in the vicinity revealed fearful expressions as they successively hid in their homes, not daring to go out. The public security worsened by the day ever since Johann withdrew all of his forces from Bailon City. Even though there were still some aristocrats' personal troops maintaining order, but they were still quite lacking. That beautiful young woman looked up and revealed a lovely and pitiful look as she pleaded Yang Feng. "Help me! Please help me, big brother!" Chapter 107 Assassin Mina. Chapter 107 Assassin Mina. Translator. Zayemojfreebnovel.com. Okay, I'll save you. Yang Feng gave a hearty smile, then casually pulled out a 37mm handgun powered by high-energy crystals from his waist, pointed it at the head of the beautiful young woman and directly fired. Bang! The head of the beautiful young woman instantly burst open, with red and white splashing on the ground. The bodies of the 4 scoundrels stiffened before revealing panicked expressions. "Sir Warlock, don't kill me. Spare my pathetic life. Don't kill me. Spare my pathetic life." A sap of scoundrel promptly knelt and lied prone on the ground, kowtowing and begging persistently. This chapter is updated by freewebnovel.com. The other 3 scoundrels also knelt on the ground, kowtowing and begging Yang Feng to spare their lives. Formidable beings like warlocks had already exceeded ordinary life forms and stepped into the realm of extraordinary life forms, with most warlocks not regarded ordinary people as being their equals. Balon City was previously considered to be neat and tidy under the rule of Johann, to the point that warlocks wouldn't freely kill people. Now that Balon City had no master, those scoundrels didn't dare to resist a warlock that would unwittingly kill a person in the middle of the street. In that instant, extremely sharp black tentacles shot out from the body of the beautiful young lady with the burst-open head, instantly piercing the four scoundrels like steel spears. While carrying blood, they continued to thrust towards Yang Feng's heart. Black Dragon Scale. Yang Feng instantly cast the spell set in his Spirit Force C. Instantly, countless black dragon scales emerged on the surface of his body. Warping Force Field. Yang Feng casually pointed with a finger. A warping force field emerged out of thin air and covered in front of the black tentacles, instantly warping them and deviating them to the side. The tightly shut doors on both sides of the street suddenly opened. Dozens of assassins entirely dressed in black raised their crossbows and shot crazily at Yang Feng. The dense rain of bolts at once hit Yang Feng, and then one by one ricocheted from the dragon scales covering his body. Even though the Black Dragon Scale was a defensive level 1 spell, but its physical resistance and magical resistance was one of the strongest among level 1 spells, with its defensive strength being comparable to that of some level 2 spells. Those bolts could kill knight rank experts, yet they couldn't even break through Yang Feng's skin. All sorts of warnings suddenly flared up in Yang Feng's mind, and he instantly bent his body. A dark blue radiance glittered among the dense rain of bolts and brushed past him. It instantly pierced through the tofu-like wall in front of it and disappeared, leaving toxic and corrosive traces in its wake. Yang Feng was immediately frightened and his body broke out in a cold sweat. Ordinary bolts couldn't wound him in the slightest, but a magic crossbow fitted with an anti-magic bolt might kill him. That arrow of the assassin would have heavily injured or even killed him were it not for him tempering his overall battle skills to a terrifying degree in the virtual reality battle cabin. Yang Feng was frightened and furious. He immediately reached for the dimensional crest on his chest and pressed it. The 5 dragon-scaled mechanical warriors in the dimensional crest were his strongest guards. Suddenly, the corpse of the nearest scoundrel, penetrated by the tentacles from the beautiful young woman, had its eyes brimming with endless life force. His body very strangely launched and appeared behind Yang Feng, stabbing at his heart. A premonition of death welled up in his mind. Yang Feng clenched his teeth as his body twisted in a way that violated the rules of physics and abruptly deviated several centimeters to the side. The left side of Yang Feng's chest had strangely a long gap appear on it, seemingly cut open by an invisible dagger. At the same time, radiances from 6 types of curses flashed. Yang Feng suddenly felt his eyes blur. He felt a splitting headache, fatigue, and nausea. His spirit scattered and his power continuously drained. His knees went soft and he almost fell limply to the ground. After its attack succeeded, the corpse of the scoundrel turned sideways and once again resolutely stabbed at Yang Feng's heart with the invisible dagger's secret treasure. A claw covered in black dragon scales reached out from the side and easily grabbed the invisible dagger's secret treasure. A terrifying life force comparable to that of a pinnacle level 3 warlock erupted in a split second. The eyes of the dragon-scaled mechanical warrior flashed coldly, and it crazily punched the corpse of the scoundrel with power equal to that of a level 3 warlock. In the next moment, the corpse of the scoundrel burst into countless body parts. Countless thumb-sized black insects with wings and sharp mouthparts at once rushed towards Yang Feng. Another dragon-scaled mechanical warrior instantly spread its level for protective cover in front of it, successively blocking the countless black insects. A black figure instantly shot away from the corpse of that scoundrel and landed on the roof of a building, revealing an extremely beautiful woman with black hair. She had a sensual and voluptuous figure, and her body was wrapped in pitch-black tight-fitting clothing. She emitted a flirtatious and coquettish aura from all over. The black-haired beauty smiled sweetly and said, "Are those the mechanical puppets that are comparable to level 3 warlocks? So fierce. Rex, I'm Mina, an assassin invited by the allied forces of the Dark Elves. You were stabbed by my twilight dagger. Therefore, you were cursed by life absorption, weakness, spirit collapse, soul weakening, life drain, and life energy incineration. Those curses can only be removed by the owner of the dagger, namely myself. Return me my dagger and I'll help you remove those curses so that you keep your life. Kill them but leave their severed heads intact. Yang Feng endured the headache. His eyes flashed with a touch of ruthlessness before he ordered sternly. The figures of the two dragon-scaled mechanical warriors shook, and they immediately rushed towards the shopfronts on both sides of the street. They chopped the assassins in the shopfronts into pieces as easily as squashing ants by brandishing their claws. A dragon-scaled mechanical warrior rushed towards the headless tentacle woman, blowing her apart with a single strike. The figure of the other dragon-scaled mechanical warrior shook, and it shot lightning fast towards the extremely beautiful assassin Mina. Such a crude beast. I'll come back for my twilight dagger after you die. Mina smiled slightly. Her figure crumbled and turned into countless wisps of black smoke before disappearing. Yang Feng's eyes contracted slightly after seeing this scene. There were large amounts of spells recorded in 3790 SIXS database, yet he didn't know what type of spell Mina used in order to escape from the dragon-scaled mechanical warrior that was comparable to a pinnacle level 3 warlock. The remaining assassins were at most knight rank experts. Without that strange and mysterious assassin Mina, they couldn't put up any resistance against the dragon-scaled mechanical warriors and could only be massacred by them. Chapter 108 Undead Hellion. Chapter 108 Undead Hellion. Translator, Xuanhuan. The 6 curses from the Twilight Dagger could slowly eat at a level 2 warlock, with the final result being death. Yang Feng's body tough had a terrifying resistance towards curses, as he had bathed in the heart blood of an ancient dragon. Thanks to his tyrannical life force, Yang Feng had finally dispelled the last of the 6 curses after half an hour. Yang Feng looked at the ground filled with corpses after recovering. His eyebrows creased slightly before he murmured, "Who was it that had sent assassins to kill me?" Judy said curiously, "Weren't the dark elves the ones that sent the assassins? As long as they killed you, then the leaderless mob of Satsuma Marquisdom wouldn't pose a threat to them, and the Marquisdom would be a ripe fruit for their plucking." Yang Feng responded with a bitter smile. "That's what I had thought, but her words made me suspicious. Additionally, the issue would gain larger proportions if Hellions were to join forces with dark elves." Yang Feng's gaze fell on the corpse of the tentacle young woman hacked into pieces. He creased his eyebrows tightly before murmuring. That tentacle young woman was from one of the 5 great Hellion royal clans, the Undead Hellion clan. The clansmen from the Undead Hellion clan wouldn't die even if their heads were to be blown off. Were it not for Yang Feng sensing that there was something fishy with her and hadn't he acted in advance by blowing her head off, then getting rid of her definitely wouldn't be so easy. The Hellion clan came about as the product of taboo experiments from the Second Warlock dynasty. The 5 great Hellion ancestors were the crystallization of the highest skills from the Second Warlock dynasty. The 5 great Hellion ancestors were respectively the Undead Hellion ancestor, the Myriad Beasts Hellion ancestor, the Elder Demon Hellion ancestor, the Titan Hellion ancestor, and the Pantheon Hellion ancestor. The 5 great Hellion ancestors were the strongest weapons manufactured by the Second Warlock dynasty. They were manufactured from the flesh, blood, spirit, and a portion of the soul from the founder of the Second Warlock dynasty, the Taboo Emperor, as well as outstanding treasures and precious materials. The 5 great Hellion ancestors immediately rebelled against the Second Warlock dynasty after the fall of the Taboo Emperor. They created a large-numbered Hellion army and fought for several millennia against the Second Warlock dynasty. In the end, the Second Warlock dynasty quelled the rebellion of the 5 great Hellion ancestors by paying a terribly painful price. It eventually collapsed after its rule was shaken. Hellion were human-eating taboo life forms, unless they were promoted to the Great Warlock rank. Otherwise, low-level Hellions were basically unable to control their appetite and needed to consume human flesh every day in order to preserve their reason. Additionally, Hellions that consume humans would receive all of their knowledge and a large part of their strength. Therefore, Hellions were practically the natural predators of humans. FGIWebNavuL.com. Countless human experts had stifled Hellions in the world of Warlock. Although the Hellions were defeated over and over and were stifled for a large number of years by human warlocks, but they still existed and their operations became only more and more covert. Within the Hellion community, there were 5 great Hellion royal clans which respectively originated from the 5 great Hellion ancestors. They had the bloodline of their Hellion ancestors and their cultivation speed was as astonishingly fast as that of human bloodline warlocks. Furthermore, their evolution potential was practically limitless, to the point that there were even human warlocks that directly degenerated into Hellions in order to gain strength. The tentacle young woman was from one of the 5 great Hellion royal clans, the Undead clan. Yang Feng had a slight headache over killing her, as it was equivalent to being at odds with the Hellion clan. Although the tentacle woman wasn't of any importance towards the Undead Hellion royal clan, but the experts of the Hellion clan wouldn't mind getting rid of him once a chance arose. The severed heads of the assassins as well as the corpse of the tentacle woman were collected and put in a storehouse in order for the customized memory-reading robots to read their memories. The origins of those assassins were then very quickly read. They came from an assassin organization called Shadow of Death and were hired to kill Yang Feng. Apart from this, those small fry assassins didn't know anything of importance. Hellions were different from humans. Their memories were located within the Hellion core. Of course, the Hellion core was very important to the Hellions as it was the crystallization of their energy. The Hellion core was also one of the hard currencies in the world of Warlocks. Although the head of the tentacle young woman from the Undead Hellion clan was blasted away, but her Hellion core wasn't damaged. Therefore, Yang Feng managed to read a large quantity of memories from her Hellion core. The tentacle woman from the Undead Hellion clan came from the bordering Samuel dukedom. Samuel dukedom was governed by the Samuel family, one of the 36 Black Dragon's bloodline warlock families. This young Hellion female was the favorite concubine of a son from the Duke Samuel. Yang Feng learned from the memory of the young Hellion female that the son of Duke Samuel was clear of her identity as a Hellion. Moreover, Hellions from the Undead Hellion clan were reared by the Samuel family to serve the family. Only by consuming human flesh could Hellions maintain their reason. For the Samuel family to rear Hellions was a simple matter, as the Hellions could consume a lot of criminals every year in their territory. The Hellions were used as a sharp sword to strike at their enemies. Undead Hellions had the bloodline of their Hellion ancestor. Even if the concentration of their bloodline was thin, yet it was still easy for them to promote to a level 1 warlock. Additionally, it was very common for Hellions to kill humans. Samuel family wouldn't be suspected of rearing Hellions even if the Hellions were to be captured. The Hellions were equipped with restriction spells and couldn't leak any information, or they would self-detonate and perish. Yang Feng's eyebrows creased slightly as his mind was full of doubts. What's going on? There's no grudges nor enmity between us. So why would Samuel family send assassins to kill me? Visit freowebnovel.com for the Est-Envel reading experience. Yang Feng was currently the lord of the Satsuma Marquisdom and had the heavy responsibility of obstructing the underworld's allied forces. Even Johann merely pulled all of his forces without hindering Yang Feng too much. Satsuma Marquisdom and Samuel dukedom neighbored each other. Once Satsuma Marquisdom was breached, then the underworld's allied forces would have a border with Samuel dukedom. Any lord with their mind intact wouldn't send assassins to kill Yang Feng during such a time. Yang Feng's expression was gloomy as he felt that something smelled fishy. Could it be that the Samuel family had colluded with the underworld's allied forces? How would they benefit by doing this? Eunice arrived beside Yang Feng and said, "Master, there's a pressing matter." Yang Feng had an ominous premonition. "What pressing matter?" Eunice said with a gloomy expression. "Fishtooth City was captured by the allied forces of the Dark Elves 1 day ago. They're currently marching towards Baza City." Yang Feng was shocked and asked, "Fishtooth City was captured? How could it be so quickly?" Fishtooth City was a large city with a population of 200,000 odd people and a gateway towards Satsuma Marquisdom. Once captured, then Satsuma Marquisdom would lay bare before the allied forces of the Dark Elves. Chapter 109 Baza City. Chapter 109 Baza City. Translator, Xuanhuan. It had been already nearly half a month since the allied forces had captured the demonic snake fort. During that time, they had holed up inside the enormous crevice in the mountains, adapting to the different environment of the surface world. Yang Feng was under the impression that the Dark Elves would at least require an entire month to adapt to the environment of the surface world. He hadn't thought that they would so quickly launch an attack and easily capture Fishtooth City. Eunice forced a smile and said, "The majority of warlock families of Satsuma Marquisdom followed Johann and left. Fishtooth City was originally part of the sphere of influence of the Side family. It was left without a warlock family guarding it after Side family had left. Therefore, it's only natural that Fishtooth City couldn't mount a resistance against the offensive of the Dark Elves. The allied forces of the Dark Elves were strong as they dared to attack the surface world. Every adult Dark Elf was outstanding in martial arts and could easily kill a knight rank expert at night or in the thicket. Simultaneously, their fighting strength was only second to warlocks, wizards, priests, druids, and others with powerful inheritances. Moreover, they reared numerous extraordinary life forms to act as their military arms. It's only natural that Fishtooth City couldn't rival them without a warlock family keeping watch over it." Yang Feng said with coldness in his gaze. "I know. Eunice, immediately transmit my orders. Deprive all the aristocrats that left their territory without permission of all their territory and Urvanes. Since they're unwilling to stay behind and jointly resist against the allied forces of the Dark Elves, then all of their assets shall belong to me." Satsuma Marquisdom was extremely prosperous, with countless precious resources. Just the magic stone veins, there were several dozens of them. It was able to support a warlock family of any size with such a huge amount of resources. Steel City was much larger than Satsuma Marquisdom, but it didn't have any magic stone veins. Therefore, only such a small level 1 warlock group such as Black Cottage would control it. Eunice said, "Master, only the Imperial Senate or the Black Dragon Tower have the authority to issue an order and deprive those aristocrats of their territories and Urvanes." Although Yang Feng's authority in Satsuma Marquisdom was enormous, to the point that he could draft all kinds of illicit laws. But when it came to the property of aristocrats and warlocks as well as their life and safety, they all needed to be approved by the Imperial Senate or the Black Dragon Tower. Yang Feng said, "Then send a letter to the Imperial Senate and the Black Dragon Tower for them to issue the order." Eunice was very smart and immediately pointed out the most crucial point. As long as Johann puts his foot down, then they'll only procrastinate without issuing the order. Johann was one of the successors to the Black Dragon Empire and he had deep connections in the empire. He also had his own people on the Imperial Senate. He might not be able to accomplish anything too extravagant, but it was simplicity itself to hinder Yang Feng. It turned out to be such a big quagmire waiting for me to be stuck in. Yang Feng frowned and his eyes flashed coldly before a chilly smile crept on his face. "But it won't be so easy to make me suffer losses." Eunice also smiled sweetly and gave Yang Feng an idea. "That's right. We can mine their Urvanes to our heart's content now that they left. In any case, the entire Satsuma Marquisdom is under our control. Anyone that dares to stop us from mining the Urvanes shall be killed." Yang Feng revealed a trace of a smile, gave Eunice a kiss and said, "An excellent idea. I also think that way. Immediately arrange for the Urvanes to be mined. Let's first mine all the Urvanes as much as we can. Even if we don't win against the Dark Elves, we also won't lose out either." freewebnovel.com. Yang Feng definitely could mine those large Urvanes in a short period of time. All of the major Urvanes in Steel City had been nearly mined dry after a short period of several years by Yang Feng's mining robots, allowing Yang Feng to manufacture more than 1 million level 7 primary battle robots. If Yang Feng were given a couple of years, then all the magic stone veins in Satsuma Empire would be cleaned dry by him. Baza City. A team of city guards were patrolling above the city walls. The captain of the team had a tall and sturdy figure with a head full of short blue hair, a very handsome appearance and an extraordinary temperament. He currently had a gloomy expression on his face. A blonde warrior asked with some concern, "Big Brother Ares, I heard that the Dark Elves had already left the underworld. Would they attack us?" Ares raised his eyebrows before berating in a low voice, "Where did you hear that? Don't spread that baseless bullshit. Otherwise, you'll only get into big troubles if you're heard by the higher-ups. Also, call me Captain when patrolling." "Hey, Captain, what times are we in?" All of the city's important aristocrats had already escaped. A warrior with short blue hair swept a 5-storied Warlock tower above the city wall with a glance. A touch of scorn flashed through his eyes before he said with a lowered voice, "Even the bigwigs from the several towers had also disappeared. If we don't leave now, then we might not have the chance to do it later." The complexions of the rest of the warriors paled. They felt anxious. In Tyrannid subcontinent, all warriors were aware that the strongest military might belong to warlocks or weapons refined by alchemists. Ordinary warriors were incapable of playing decisive roles and could only be used for simple menial tasks such as occupying cities, maintaining public security, cleaning battlefields, searching for enemies, and the like. Now that all the warlocks of Baza City had escaped, it was only natural that the warriors would be filled with fear and lose all their confidence. "Don't panic. The new lord of our Satsuma Marquisdom has arrived. He definitely won't abandon us." Ares saw that things were developing in a dangerous direction and immediately said loudly, "New novel chapters are published on fguriwebnovel.com. That's right. The new lord should be a formidable warlock. The new lord has arrived. He shouldn't abandon us." The spirits of the warriors recovered a little bit after hearing Ares' words. In the Black Dragon Empire, the majority of earldoms and above had formidable warlocks as their lords. The people of those territories would wholeheartedly revere their lords. It was the duty of the lord to protect the people in their territory. "Look, what it that?" Suddenly, a soldier shouted and pointed towards the sky. The warriors looked towards the sky and their complexions at once became extremely pale. In a distant place in the sky, there were level 1 extraordinary life form hippogriffs with dark elves on their backs flying in this direction. Dust surged on the ground as a large army of the dark elves rushed towards this direction. The warriors on the city wall were all trembling after seeing this scene, endless terror and despair flashing in their eyes. Chapter 110 Driders. Chapter 110 Driders. Translator, Xuanhuan. Without warlocks assuming command, the warriors in Baza City were basically no threat to the level 1 extraordinary life form hippogriffs mid-air. Without having their physical constitutions strengthening by spells, even knight-rank archers wouldn't be able to pierce through the hippogriff's plumage. A warrior hesitated before saying, "I heard that the dark elves would capture humans and mate with them in order to give birth to the next generation. Surrendering might not be so bad." Dark elves were reported to be a branch of the elven clan with a superior concentration of elven bloodline. With a superior concentration of elven bloodline, all the males were handsome and all the females were beautiful. The ratio of male to female offsprings was 1:20 due to the constraints of their bloodline. The males were too few in numbers and were already used as stallions. Therefore, the females would capture males from different races, mate with them, and give birth to the next generation. The warriors on the city wall relaxed slightly after listening to his words before recalling the various legends about the dark elves and their fighting spirit dissipating. Ares said with a cold smile, "That's right, human males that fall into their hands are reduced to breeding tools. However, they would have to mate for over 50 times a day. Could you bear that?" They all thought for a moment before their complexions paled. 1 or 2 times a day was enjoyable, but 50 times a day was a deadly pace. Ares continued to strike at their minds by saying, "Additionally, they'll just feed you to all kinds of extraordinary life forms after your little guy becomes useless. They'll laugh and joke around while watching you being eaten alive. Do you still want to surrender?" The warriors above the city wall had their bodies turn ice cold after hearing that. Only now did they understood that dark elves weren't just lewd, but also cold-blooded, merciless, cruel, deceitful, and so on. Visit fguriwebnovel.co for the BST novel reading experience. The Dark Elves had a weapon called Drider. Dark Elves defeated in fights would be turned into wicked beings called Driders by means of a wicked ritual. That is, they would turn into a life form with the lower body of a giant spider and the upper body of a dark elf. Driders had strong magical resistance. They could navigate trough all kinds of landscape like spiders, and were even capable of freely moving about the city wall. They were terrifying weapons with battle prowess comparable to level 1 warlocks. The ruler of the Dark Elves, the goddess Lolth, was a wicked goddess. The Dark Elves had a lot of wicked and taboo spells and rituals, and any human that fell into their hands wouldn't have a good end. Several tens of hippogriffs quickly flew over the Baza City's city wall. The dark elf archers on their backs unceremoniously shot their arrows at Baza City's warriors. The arrows and bows of the dark elf archers riding on the backs of the hippogriffs were extremely advanced products. The arrows, as if laser-guided, instantly penetrated the bodies of several human warriors, nailing them to the ground. A lot of human archers above Baza City's city wall pulled the bow strings of their bows before shooting their arrows into the air. A dense rain of arrows shoot towards the sky. A despairing scene occurred. The majority of the arrows shot by the human archers missed, with the rest being ricocheted from the hippogriffs' bodies, without even injuring a single one of them. The dark elf archers mid-air easily picked out the human archers and successively shot them down. The morale of the human warriors above the city wall begun to crumble after more than 100 of their archers were shot down, and they begun to flee below the city wall. They scrambled away and quickly fled in panic, with some of them even attacking and killing their companions. Within the headquarters of the allied forces of the Dark Elves attacking Baza City, a dark elf with a sensual figure dressed in a sensual leather armor and exuding a tempting charm from all over was watching the humans above the city wall fleeing in panic, and the corners of her mouth rose slightly, revealing a trace of a cold smile. Biska was the commander of the Dark Elves attacking Baza City. Biska unsheathed her commander's cutlass, pointed towards Baza City and cried out sternly, "Those humans without the support from Warlocks are just a bunch of rubbish. This piece of fertile land was wasted on those rubbish for so many years. Under the guidance of Her Majesty, the mighty goddess will definitely win and seize this piece of fertile land. Charge!" Up to 4 meters tall driders with the upper bodies of naked dark elves and the lower bodies of sinister spiders appeared from amidst the allied forces, quickly crawling towards Baza City. Driders, weapons that could walk all over the city wall, were one of the strongest and most useful siege tools of the Dark Elves. With no warlocks guarding Baza City, all its defenders could be massacred by only the 30 driders that Biska had with her. Biska watched as those driders quickly approached Baza City, and the corners of her mouth rose slightly, revealing a trace of a smile. As long as the driders forced their way into Baza City and opened the city gate, then the army of the Dark Elves could easily enter and capture the city. Johann took away his demonic snake legion, as well as all the Warlocks families from Satsuma Marquisdom, plunging the Marquisdom into a situation where it didn't have Warlocks to protect itself. This made Satsuma Marquisdom seem an egg without its shell, where anyone could easily take a bite at it. Fishtooth City was so easily captured by the allied forces of the Dark Elves. Cities without Warlocks protecting them were truly too frail. Rumblings from propellers could be heard in this moment. Thunder Demon heavy-duty transport aircraft were approaching Baza City from the rear. Everyone watching the Thunder Demon heavy-duty transport aircraft as well as the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters beside them had a touch of astonishment flash through their eyes. What is that? Are those new alchemical weapons? Many of the human warriors that raised their heads and watched the Thunder Demon heavy-duty transport aircraft and the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters midair had a touch of hope flash trough their eyes. Although the level of education of those human warriors was low, but they still knew some legends about warlocks. The legendary alchemists had the power to produce all kinds of unfathomable alchemical weapons. Every formidable alchemist had the terrifying power to reverse the tide of a battle. When warriors of the allied forces of the underworld saw those Thunder Demon heavy-duty transport aircraft and the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters midair, their eyes flashed with a touch of unease. They were very clear about the power and terror of those human warlocks from all those years that they were suppressed by them. Chapter 111 Bombardment. Chapter 111 Bombardment. Translator, Xuanhuan. Take them down. Biska saw the Thunder Demon heavy-duty transport aircraft and the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters suddenly appear in the sky, and her eyes flashed with a touch of unease before yelling out an order. With dark elf archers on their backs, the 60 hippogriffs quickly flew towards the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters. They had confidence in taking down those Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters as there were merely 15 of those steel lumps. Those hippogriffs had just moved when the 15 extremely nimble tank-like Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters immediately launched. Their shapes changed as they spread a pair of wings with accelerating jets underneath, ejecting a strong flow of air. Their speed increased greatly, turning into 15 fighter-like heavy-duty assault helicopters. The speed of the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters suddenly soared up to half the speed of sound after their shapes changed. Their cannons rumbled, countless shells forming a terrifying barrage bombarding the Hippogriff cavalries. A Hippogriff cavalry was hit by a 37.5 mm shell in the chest, and his upper body was directly blown into pieces. The head of a Hippogriff cavalry's Hippogriff was hit before directly bursting open, propelling the Hippogriff cavalry to fall to the ground. Countless blood blossoms sputtered as the Hippogriff cavalries burst one after another and then fell from mid-air. Those Hippogriff cavalries were the peak archers from among the Dark Elves. They displayed their terrifying skills in archery, and their arrows even hit the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters amidst their high-speed movements. But it wasn't any different from throwing eggs at them, as the arrows were unable to breach the thick tank-like armor of the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters. The arrows could only get stuck in the armor of the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters without any way to cause any substantial damage. Long live the Lord! Kill them! Kill those freaks! Long live the Lord! On the ground, the humans watching this scene at once burst into earth-shaking cheers. Even blockheads knew that only their new lord could have sent those formidable alchemical weapons to help them. The complexions of many warriors from the underworld's allied forces at once became extremely unsightly after seeing this scene. The roof of a Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopter opened, and a dais holding Yang Feng was raised to the level of the helicopter's roof. Simultaneously, countless loudspeakers extended from the roof of the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopter. Yang Feng looked at Baza City's military and civilians down below and said faintly, "I'm Rex, the new lord of Satsuma Marquisdom. Henceforth, you all are my people and are eligible to receive my protection. I'll fulfill my duty as a lord and protect you as long as you're loyal to me." Under the effect from the loudspeakers, the military and civilians in the entire Baza City had clearly heard Yang Feng's words. Long live the Lord Rex! Long live the mighty Lord Rex! Long live the Lord Rex! Long live forever and ever! Earth-shaking cheers praising Yang Feng were once again emitted from within Baza City. As for my enemies, they'll be destroyed. Countless humans cheered within Baza City as Yang Feng pointed towards the 30 Driders. The 15 Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters successively shot their air-to-surface missiles. Boom! 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 Following frightening noises, the 30 Driders were blown to smithereens. Seeing the 30 Driders being crushed one by one, the complexions of the warriors from the underworld's allied forces had become more unsightly. The 50 Thunder Demon heavy-duty transport aircraft immediately landed on Baza City's city wall. Level 4 primary battle robots successively unloaded self-propelled artillery, stationary artillery, laser artillery battery, rocket artillery, howitzers, heavy machine guns, anti-aircraft cannons, and many other weapons from the Thunder Demon heavy-duty transport aircraft, and then mounted them above the city wall. Yang Feng overlooked the many warriors of Baza Cities down below, just like a god, and said in a heavy voice, "Warriors of Baza City, go back to your posts. Fight to protect your home. For Sir Rex, for our home. Brothers, let's pick up our arms and fight." Ares lifted his battle blade and roared loudly, "Fight! Fight!" The human warriors of Baza City at once lifted their arms and roared loudly with their morale roused before walking towards their positions along a heaven-shaking clamor. There was no lack of brave people among Baza City's human warriors. But without the support of warlocks, they were as defenseless as unarmed ordinary people against fully armed special forces. They finally regained their battle spirit now that Yang Feng arrived with a large amount of weapons as support. Yang Feng jumped down from above Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopter. Standing above the city wall, his cold and indifferent gaze fell on the distant allied forces of the Dark Elves. Biska hesitated slightly before gritting her teeth and ordering, "Attack!" The moment after Biska gave her order, a crowd of cavemen without any eyes at once poured out from among the underworld's allied forces. The cavemen's features entailed a height of approximately 1.4 meters and an enormous head without any eyes. They could only move by relying on their hearing as well as their caveman leader's spiritual force guiding them. The reproduction ability of those cavemen was terrifying. A female caveman could reproduce up to several hundred times a year, as long as there was an adequate supply of food. They had low strength, low intelligence, and were the lowest existences in the underworld as well as the best cannon fodder. A fully armed human warrior could easily kill quite a few cavemen. These cavemen were also very easy to raise. They could survive by just being fed some tree leaves and grass. During short-term wars, they wouldn't cause great pressure to the logistics even if their numbers were even greater. The several 100,000 cavemen suddenly poured out and rushed towards Baza City like countless large man-eating ants. The complexions of the human warriors above Baza City's city wall watching that crowd of cavemen abruptly change, and a touch of fear flashed trough their eyes. This content is taken from freowebnovel.com. There was merely a 5,000-strong regular army in the entire Baza City. If they were to engage in field warfare, then the several 100,000 cavemen were capable of tearing them to shreds. Even with the city wall, it still wouldn't be easy to kill the several 100,000 cavemen. Open fire! Yang Feng watched the several 100,000 cavemen with a callous expression before ordering coldly. The several dozens of heavy machine guns above Baza City's city wall instantly spewed countless fires, and the terrifying metal storm formed from a dense rain of bullets swept trough those cavemen. Chapter 112 Complete Victory. Chapter 112 Complete Victory. Translator Xuanhuan. 1,000 to 10,000 cavemen were blown up practically every moment under the crazy sweeping of the several dozens of heavy machine guns, blood and limbs splashing everywhere. There appeared to be an invisible wall continuously striking at the immeasurably huge caveman legion. The heavy machine guns were blasting it into tatters 1 inch at a time. Ares watched the countless cavemen being blasted into tatters with astonishment. So strong, so formidable. The alchemical weapons of our Sir Lord are so formidable. The human warriors above the city wall also watched this scene with astonishment. Although the human warriors of Baza City went trough strict military training, but it was the first time that they saw the terror of a warlock in such a large-scale conflict. The complexions of the dark elven warriors from the underworld's allied forces watching this scene from the headquarters were extremely unsightly. The cavemen belonged to the cannon fodder branch of the army, and several tens of them could be casually killed by adult dark elves. But several 100,000 cavemen, even dark elf wizards, would have to shrink back. Otherwise, there was a possibility that they would be killed by the cavemen instead. Now several tens of 10,000 of the several 100,000 cavemen had already died before even managing to get near Baza City's city wall. Under such circumstances, the cavemen would be exterminated if they didn't manage to get near Baza City. Biska's complexion was also extremely unsightly. She felt extremely anxious as she watched Baza City from afar. She was in a dilemma, and her beautiful eyes flashed with despondency. The Dark Elves' allied forces of the underworld commanded by Biska was merely a division of the entire army. The strongest experts in this division only had battle prowess comparable to human level 2 warlocks. If the present allied forces acted together, they had the ability to contend against a human level 3 warlock. But seeing those never-seen-before modern weapons, Biska had an ominous premonition and had a slight desire to retreat. Biska hesitated for a moment, but then thought of the punishment resulting from failure before shuddering within and shouting in a stern voice, "Deploy the giant magical catapults." Giant wagons up to 30 meters long, pulled by 9 demonic wildebeests, were quickly stood out from the rear of the allied forces. Sensual and beautiful dark elves begun to quickly assemble the many components engraved with mysterious and profound runes taken from within those giant wagons. Giant magical catapults up to 30 meters long with 36 sockets for magic stones and engraved with countless magical runes were quickly assembled. The giant magical catapults could hurl frightening giant stones with diameters exceeding 20 meters and had a range of up to 5 kilometers. They were one of the strongest projectile weapons under the Dark Elves' allied forces. Even level 3 warlocks would have their defensive force fields shattered and their bodies smashed into mincemeat if hit by the giant stones of the giant magical catapults. The giant magical catapults were extremely precious, and this branch of the Black Elves' allied forces had only 10 of them. Open fire! The corners of Yang Feng's mouth rose slightly just as the dark elves had managed to assemble half of the giant magical catapults, and his eyes flashed with a touch of frigid radiance before ordering. 20 units of the previously still self-propelled artillery in a split second adjusted their coordinates via their smart microchips before quickly opening fire. Boom! 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 Accompanied by earth-shaking rumbles, the 10 just assembled giant magical catapults were directly swallowed by the shell fire from the self-propelled artillery, blasting them into tatters. The Dark Elves' allied forces abruptly fell into shambles after seeing the giant magical catapults being blasted apart before crazily fleeing towards the rear. Now that Yang Feng's artillery destroyed those giant magical catapults placed behind them, Yang Feng's artillery could equally attack the allied forces themselves. Retreat! Retreat! Biska was so angry when she saw this scene that she spat a mouthful of blood before roaring with a gloomy expression. The huge Dark Elves' allied forces immediately collapsed and retreated towards the rear while abandoning the countless supply carts. Long live the Lord Rex! Long live the Lord Rex! The human warriors that saw this scene from above Baza City's city wall erupted in mad cheers. At this time they might have already been captured by the Dark Elves were it not for Yang Feng's appearance. A fate worse than death. They were brimming with worship towards Yang Feng after seeing the Dark Elves being utterly defeated. Yang Feng watched the defeated Dark Elves' allied forces retreating and his eyes glimmered several times, yet he didn't give the order to pursue them, but rather let the level, for primary battle robots continue killing those cavemen. The corners of Yang Feng's mouth rose slightly as he watched the retreat of the allied forces, revealing a trace of a smile. The time is not ripe yet. The Dark Elves cannot yet be defeated. With his current forces, Yang Feng could dispatch large amounts of his primary battle robots and easily wipe out this branch of the Dark Elves' allied forces. But as a result, he would attract the attention of the entire Dark Elves' allied forces, and the enemy he would face next time would be stronger by an unknown amount of times. Johann didn't want to completely consume his forces in successive battles against the Dark Elves' allied forces. Therefore, he chose to quickly pull all his forces from Satsuma Marquisdom. Similarly, Yang Feng also didn't want to consume his forces in battles against the Dark Elves' allied forces. "What's your name?" Yang Feng arrived before Ares, who had the best performance in the battle, and asked in a heavy voice. Visit freeobnovel.com for the Est Envel reading experience. Ares knelt on one knee before looking up to Yang Feng and saying, "Sir Lord, my name is Ares." Even though Ares was a knight rank expert, yet he wasn't a warlock nor an aristocrat. Therefore, it was natural that he would kneel on one knee as a means of showing his allegiance towards his lord. Yang Feng smiled slightly and said, "I'm very fond of your loyalty and bravery. Are you willing to be my retainer?" Ares' eyes flashed with a touch of delight as he said, "Mighty Sir Lord, it would be my greatest honor to be your retainer." Yang Feng pressed the dimensional crest on his chest and a bronze box immediately flew out of it before falling in front of Ares. Yang Feng said, "Cut your wrist and spill your blood over this box." Ares didn't hesitate before directly brandishing his sword and cutting open his wrist. A large amount of blood spurted out of his veins and spattered onto the bronze box. The bronze box at once bloomed with blue radiance before opening and revealing a bronze lion engraved with countless profound and mysterious runes. The bronze lion quickly disassembled into pieces of armor before quickly flying towards Ares and assembling into a set of bronze armor around his body. The front and rear of the bronze armor had 9 sockets each embedded within mid-grade magic stones. Chapter 113, Blue Lion Feng. Chapter 113, Blue Lion Feng. Translator, Xuanhuan. That bronze armor covered Ares' entire body. An extremely formidable power immediately erupted from the armor, making Ares feel like he was brimming with power. Ao! Ares suddenly faced upwards and issued a bellow before instantly erupting with a terrifying life force comparable to that of a level 1 warlock. The surrounding human warriors were being pressured to the point that they had some difficulty breathing. Ares at once knelt on one knee and said loudly, "Many thanks, Master, for bestowing upon me this strength. I feel as if my strength had promoted to the Sky Knight rank after putting on this miraculous armor. Master, I'm willing to be your retainer and value loyalty for generations." I'm willing to be your shield and shield you from all harm, to be your sword and kill your enemies. The human warriors above the city wall had their eyes flash with a touch of jealousy after hearing Ares' words, especially the several great knights, whose strength was originally far above Ares, had their eyes brimming with envy and jealousy. The source of this scentent is freowebnovel.com. Gazes gathered on Ares' bronze armor. They knew that the bronze armor was an exceptional secret treasure refined by a formidable alchemist. Gazes were also gathered on Yang Feng. The great knights of Baza City had the desire of becoming his retainers just like Ares had and getting secret treasures like the bronze armor as well as tremendous power. The corners of Yang Feng's mouth rose slightly and his eyes flashed with a touch of amusement. The secret treasure armor that he bestowed Ares was a fusion of Warlock techniques and Shizu technology, and the reason he bestowed it under the watchful eyes of the people was to draw in Baza City's people and attract even more experts. The secret treasure armor allowed a knight rank expert exhibit battle prowess comparable to level 1 Sky Knights. However, its manufacturing cost was at least 100 times that of a level 7 bladed robot. If one were to go by the price-quality ratio, then it wasn't worthwhile. But if one were to go by the perspective of drawing in people, then the secret treasure armor had tremendous value. This secret treasure armor not only brought Yang Feng Ares' devotion but also triggered the desires of countless human experts to gain power by relying on Yang Feng. As a result, Yang Feng could quickly reassure the people of Baza City as well as attract large amounts of experts. Yang Feng smiled slightly, then pressed the dimensional crest on his chest and a knowledge crystal immediately appeared in his hand. This secret treasure bronze armor is called Blue Lion Feng. I'll impart you with a secret method. As long as you strive hard enough and with the help of Blue Lion Feng, then you'll be able to promote to a genuine level 1 Sky Knight within several years. At that time, together with Blue Lion Feng, even level 2 Warlocks might not be your opponents. Ares' eyes flashed with a touch of delight, and he immediately received the knowledge crystal. Many thanks, Master. All human experts above the city wall watched Ares with even more jealousy in their eyes. Sky Knights were very rare in Tyrannid subcontinent. The reason being that gifted geniuses would tread the Warlock path and secret methods that could be practiced until Sky Knight were very rare. A secret method inheritance that could be practiced until Sky Knight rank could bring about a powerful knight family. Although the fighting strength of a Sky Knight was inferior to an official level 1 Warlocks, but the Sky Knight already had the strength to kill a level 1 Warlock. The status of such experts in Tyrannid subcontinent was still rather high. Yang Feng casually taking out a secret method that could be practiced until Sky Knight naturally attracted the envy of countless human knight rank experts. As night fell, the land became covered in a layer of darkness. The dark elves blended into the night, as if invisible, quietly and stealthily sneaking towards Baza City. Dark elves degenerated from high elves. They renounced the elven divine system's elven primary god Dunneth, and instead professed their faith in the nefarious goddess Lolth. Lolth had spent large amounts of her divine power to bestow Dark Elf clan with the blessing of the power of darkness. In the darkness, they had the innate power of invisibility, the innate ability night vision, and their physical constitution would upgrade by 30%, their battle prowess nearly doubling. With a little bit of training, they were among the most dreaded assassins in the darkness. It was by the virtue of the blessing of the power of darkness that the Dark Elves could become overlords and proliferate in the underworld where experts and freaks were common. Even though Goddess Lolth continuously instigated internecine among the Dark Elves for her own pleasure, yet they still hadn't renounced on their faith because they needed the powers of Goddess Lolth. The Dark Elves, as if invisible, sneaked to a distance of 100-odd meters from Baza City. But they hadn't discovered that closely packed and practically invisible infrared sensors intertwined and form a large net 100 meters from Baza City. The automatic heavy machine guns above Baza City's city wall quickly revolved and crazily spat countless fires the moment a dark elf entered the large net, immediately shredding her. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! In a split second, synthetic alarms reverberated through Baza City. Freeobnovel.com. Huge flares rose into the sky before bloomed with endless radiances and brightly illuminating the surroundings of Baza City as if small suns. Crowds of human warriors swiftly gushed out from every nook and cranny towards the city wall. Retreat! Immediately retreat! As the one responsible for this sneak attack operation, Biska was so depressed that she felt like spitting blood when she saw the tyrannical dark elves being blasted apart by the automatic machine guns before swiftly issuing the order of retreat. The tyrannical dark elves left behind several hundred blasted apart corpses before they managed to retreat. Yang Feng arrived above the city wall and looked at the several hundred blown apart corpses of the dark elves before revealing a trace of a smile. They don't learn. But at least Baza City should be all right without me here. Then let's proceed with the next phase of the plan. The greatest advantage of the dark elves was that they could lie low in the darkness of the night before launching an attack. It wouldn't be so simple for the dark elves to attack Baza City now that their night raid was foiled. Yang Feng had quickly obtained the information about the state of the world from his information network after he had easily defeated the dark elves' allied forces of the underworld. The allied forces of the underworld had successively captured nearly all of the human warlocks' footholds in the underworld. Warlock College Antalya, White Elephant Ivory and Eyes of Justice. Most of the footholds of the three great forces in the underworld had suffered grievous casualties under the raid of the dark elves, with each force losing at least one level 3 warlock. Chapter 114, Sharon Village. Chapter 114, Sharon Village. Translator, Zayamoj. Rose Garden, Savage Claw, and Black Dragon Tower. The circumstances of these three great forces were anything but reassuring. They abandoned their footholds in the underworld at the first opportunity and withdrew to the surface world. They assembled a heavy defense, barely keeping the front. The underworld was the home field of dark elves and many other races, as well as the place where they could display terrifying battle prowess. Moreover, the battle prowess of humans in the underworld would be greatly weakened. Warlock College Antalya, White Elephant Ivory and Eyes of Justice. These three great forces repelled the underworld's allied forces by relying on their forts in the underworld and inflicted tremendous damages to them, while Rose Garden, Savage Claw, and Black Dragon Tower had chosen to concentrate their forces regardless of the civilian well-being and defend the important towns and cities of the surface world against the offensive of the underworld's allied forces. Warlock College Antalya, White Elephant Ivory and Eyes of Justice had suffered frantic attacks in the underworld before finally being forced to choose and retreat to the surface world. The underworld's allied forces killed their way out of the underworld. They wantonly burned, killed, and pillaged in the surface world, venting their anger with humans as well as their beastly desires, greatly harming the humans in Tyrandit subcontinent. This catastrophe had affected half of Tyrandit subcontinent, with large amounts of humans dying almost every day. The rogue warlock groups that were originally scattered in nooks and crannies didn't have any choice but to spend great costs and depend on large warlock groups' time and again while struggling on death's doors. Sharon Village was a small village within Satsuma Marquisdom. Although it was called a small village, but its population had reached up to 100,000 people. The reason why Sharon Village's population could reach such heights was because there were quite a few huge magic stones veins in the vicinity. The magic stone veins belonged to the warlock family known as Barankum family. Even though the Barankum family wasn't one of Black Dragon Empire's 36 Black Dragon bloodline families, but they were a Black Dragon Serpent bloodline family only second to the Black Dragon bloodline families. Experts in the Barankum family were as common as clouds, with at least 3 level 3 warlocks being among them. They were one of the royal families of Black Dragon Empire. Sharon Village was filled with miners that mined the magic stone veins, merchants that came to purchase magic stones, as well as a variety of prostitutes and mercenaries. Cavalries wearing heavy armor and riding demonic wildebeests were galloping from afar. "Halt! Who are you?" For warriors from Sharon Village stepped forward to bar the way of the cavalries riding the demonic wildebeests and said loudly. Bud, the leader of the cavalries, casually took out a document with an identity token and threw it at the 4 warriors before ordering. "We are people of Lord Rex, and this is our proof of identity." The eyes of the captain of the warriors flashed with a touch of scorn before trampling on the document with his foot and saying with a sneer, "Lord Rex? Satsuma Marquisdom belongs to Lord Johann as far as I'm aware. What's this matter with Lord Rex? This is the territory of the Barankum family. You're not welcome here, Scram." The other three warriors also sneered coldly repeatedly and looked scornfully at Bud and the cavalries behind him. Warlock family was backed by Johann, and it was one of the royal families of the Black Dragon Empire. The family was very arrogant and naturally didn't care about Yang Feng. Freebnovel.com. Bud's eyebrows rose, his eyes flashed with a touch of viciousness, and he said coldly, "I'm the envoy sent by Lord Rex. Scram and call the village mayor of Xuanhuan village." The captain of the warriors sneered. "Is the village mayor of our Xuanhuan village somebody that such rubbish lick yourselves can casually meet? Take a hike, you're not welcome here." Bud swept the warriors with a cold glance, then waved his hand, and the whole cavalries immediately turned around and galloped away. The captain of the warriors spat in Bud's direction before saying with a sneer, "Two, a bunch of rubbish. Truly, there are fellows of every kind. I actually thought that they would exchange some strikes with us. That Lord Rex doesn't seem like anything special to have rubbish like these as his subordinates." This chapter is updated by freewebnovel.com. The four warriors of the Warlock family were mocking and laughing outside the entrance to the village. What was that? All of a sudden, a warrior of the Warlock family pointed forward and said. The other three warriors looked forward only to see a team of 200 cavalries clad in a layer of black armor galloping in their direction. One couldn't make out their appearances. The complexion of the changed before he roared. "This is the territory of the Warlock family. You're there. Immediately stop." The cavalries clad in a layer of black armor were silent and instead urged their demonic wildebeests to rush faster. Enemy raid. That captain was an elite of the Warlock family. He immediately took out a cylinder and burst it. Multicolored radiances instantly shot out into the air from the cylinder and bloomed into extremely dazzling multicolored radiances. Incomparably resonant alarms sounded through the entire Xuanhuan village. The captain had just finished doing that a moment ago, when a cavalry that was spurring their mount arrived before him. The cavalry brandished his up to 2 meters long claymore and ruthlessly hacked at the captain, easily chopping him in two. 3 other cavalries also brandished their claymore and instantly chopped the other 3 warriors in two. Like a hurricane, the terrifying cavalries galloped towards Xuanhuan town after killing the 4 warriors of the Warlock family. There was an up to 6 meters tall city wall built around Xuanhuan village. 300 completely equipped warriors stood above the city wall. The 200-strong cavalries had just a moment ago approached Xuanhuan village, when several dozens of arrows formed a rain of arrows that immediately shot towards the cavalries from above the city wall. That 200 cavalries casually waved, directly pushing the rain of arrows aside. An Earth Knight rank warrior above the city wall hollered in a stern voice. "Who are you people? This is the territory of the Warlock family. You even dare to offend the Warlock family? Could it be that you aren't afraid of your families being exterminated?" Warlock family had deep roots. If it were to leave Black Dragon Empire, then it could establish a small kingdom in a remote nation. With its power, Warlock family could easily destroy some lesser warlock families. There weren't many people in the entire Black Dragon Empire that dared to provoke them. The leader of the cavalries clad in black armor jumped and at once erupted with a terrifying life force. He brandished his 2 meters long claymore and madly chopped at the Earth Knight. Chapter 115 Mining. Chapter 115 Mining. Translator, Xuanhuan. That Earth Knight's eyes flashed with a touch of astonishment. He aroused all of his power and parried with his fine steel longsword. The 2 swords collided. The claymore of the black-armored cavalry at once cut the fine steel longsword of the Earth Knight in two before chopping the Earth Knight from head to toe in two. Blood spurted everywhere. The other black-armored cavalries jumped onto the huge city wall and rushed into the crowd, massacring left and right like fiends reaping human lives. Xuanhuan village's warriors were well-equipped and well-trained, but their strength and equipment were not in the same league as those of the black-armored cavalries. They were easily killed by the black-armored cavalries. After killing all those warriors, the black-armored cavalries opened the gate of Xuanhuan village before riding on their demonic wildebeests and proceeding towards the residence of Xuanhuan village's village mayor. "Who are you people?" The cavalries had just arrived near the residence of Xuanhuan village's village mayor, when an incomparably formidable life force erupted in a flash. A gold-haired, blue-eyed, middle-aged man with a tall and sturdy figure, wearing a white armor and holding a secret treasure claymore in his hand slowly came out. His eyes flashed gravely when he saw the 200 black-armored cavalries. Sky Knight Abel was the strongest expert that Barankum family had left in Xuanhuan village. He had a full set of secret treasure equipment. Some rogue level 1 warlocks with lower strength might not be his match. The leading black-armored cavalry, without any bullshit, instantly erupted with a formidable life force comparable to that of a level 1 warlock. Dim radiances from magical blessings bloomed all over his body. As swift as a clap of thunder, without giving his opponent time to prepare, the black-armored cavalry darted before Abel and chopped at him. Abel's complexion abruptly changed greatly, and he urged his life energy, stimulating his secret treasure armor. Brute strength, grace, and acceleration. The 3 level 1 auxiliary spells at once shrouded his body before his strength rose greatly in a split second. He firmly raised the secret treasure claymore in his hands and parried the claymore of the black-armored cavalry. Ding! Abel was directly jolted back by 3 or 4 steps along with a blare. The secret treasure claymore at once spurted a fireball, directly bombarding the black-armored cavalry. The level 1 secret treasure claymore, Fire Sword, had the level 1 spell Fireball sealed in it. Could cast Fireball once a day. It was Abel's strongest killer move, which he used for reversing the circumstances of a battle. 2 black-armored cavalries stepped forwards in a split second and raised their shields. 2 transparent protective covers appeared before them in a flash. The fireball blasted against the 2 transparent protective covers, directly bursting and dissipating one of them. 6 black-armored cavalries stepped forward in a split second and madly stabbed at Abel from 6 different directions. A cold radiance flashed past Abel's eyes. He howled angrily before brandishing the fire sword in a sweeping motion, chopping off the heads of the 6 black-armored cavalries in a split second. There was no blood being spurted after the heads of the 6 black-armored cavalries were chopped off and the 6 sharp claymores stabbed at Abel in a flash. The level 1 spell Warping Force Field Blessing erupted on Abel's secret treasure armor in a split second, deviating the 6 sharp claymores to the side and avoiding that killing blow. At that moment, the leading black-armored cavalry brandished his claymore with his full strength in a hacking motion and fiercely chopped at Abel. Abel hurriedly parried the blow before being forcefully pushed back by 6 or 7 steps by that black-armored cavalry. The other 6 black-armored cavalry seized the opportunity to brandish their claymores in horizontal slashed and chopped at Abel, forcefully chopping open his protective armor as well as chopping him into quite a few parts. The leading black-armored cavalry brandished his claymore in a slash and chopped off Abel's head before pointing towards the residence of the village mayor. Those black-armored cavalries immediately broke into the residence of the village mayor. Screams were emitted from the residence of Xuanhuan village's village mayor. Before long, the black-armored cavalries galloped out of the residence of Xuanhuan village's village mayor while covered in blood and quickly left Xuanhuan village. No one in Xuanhuan village dared to obstruct those fiendish black-armored cavalries. Bud took a team of cavalries and entered Xuanhuan village shortly after the black-armored cavalries had left. Once Bud entered Xuanhuan village, he beheaded several dozen thugs that were looting and burning everywhere before sending people to fetch Xuanhuan village's bigwigs. Bud was all smiles as he saw those bigwigs of Xuanhuan village before saying, "I'm Bud, a subordinate of Sir Rex. I came here after pursuing the defeated remnants of Dark Elves. But it's very unfortunate that I arrived just a step too late. I didn't manage to rescue the family of Xuanhuan village's mayor. According to the orders of Sir Rex, the entire Xuanhuan village is now under martial law. I have the authority to kill anyone on the spot that violates the orders of Sir Rex. Does any one of you disagree with anything that I've just said?" Those bigwigs of Xuanhuan village had lived here for an unknown amount of time. Many of them had seen warlock families being destroyed one after another because of the several magic stone veins. Mortals like them had limited wealth and were simply unable to contend against those warlock groups. Now that Bud had clearly expressed that his purpose for coming here were the magic stone veins in the vicinity of Xuanhuan village, those bigwigs naturally didn't dare to go against him. "The entire Xuanhuan village welcomes you, Sir Bud. Xuanhuan village is willing to comply with the orders of Sir Rex. Xuanhuan village's bigwigs felt Bud's murderous gaze after a moment of silence, before successively plastering flattering smiles on their faces and saying loudly, "The sourk of this content is formidable." Bud swept those bigwigs with a gaze, his eyes flashing with a touch of contempt and amusement. As long as these bigwigs behaved, then the entire Xuanhuan village would behave. At night of the same day, heavy-duty trucks forming a huge caravan drove into Xuanhuan village while dragging all kinds of heavy mining equipment, before heading towards the magic stone veins. Very quickly, mechanical rumblings were transmitted from those magic stone veins. Xuanhuan village had been run by Warlock family for more than 100 years. Even if the village was already cleaned up by those black-armored cavalries, but there were still a lot of spies of Warlock family. They transmitted everything that they saw to Warlock family via various means. Yang Feng's methods were as fast as a clap of thunder as he cleaned up Satsuma Maquistam's magic stone veins that originally belonged to great warlock families. He completely swallowed those magic stone veins before madly mining them. Every day would yield him at least 5 million low-grade magic stones under his desperate mining. In addition, there were still large amounts of mid-grade and high-grade magic stones as well as a small portion of top-grade magic stones. It raised huge waves after Yang Feng seized those magic stone veins belonging to different warlock families. Those warlock families that were adversely affected by Yang Feng successively went to the aristocratic senate to make noise, demanding the restoration of the ownership of their veins and the punishment of Yang Feng. Chapter 116 Fire Tower. Chapter 116 Fire Tower. Translator: Xuanhuan. Black Dragon Empire, within the palace's gardens. Black Dragon Empire's Emperor Solomon was sitting on a chair while holding two pretty and flirtatious bare young women in his embrace. Several young women stood beside him while peeling fruits, before putting them into his mouth. A middle-aged man arrived before Solomon, before handing him a document. "Your Majesty, this is a petition handed in by Satsuma Maquistam's 28 warlock families. They request your Majesty to make a decree and strip Rex of his Viscount title as well as the ownership of his territories. Also, they want the magic stone veins returned to them." This middle-aged man was Black Dragon Empire's manager of internal affairs Penagoldo, and he had the terrifying strength of a pinnacle level 3 warlock. He was also Solomon's trusted aide and had great power in Black Dragon Empire. Solomon picked up the document and swept it with a glance, before casually tossing it aside and saying lightly, "Had Rex really occupied the magic stone veins of the 28 warlock families?" Penagoldo's eyes flashed with a touch of a peculiar radiance before saying in a somewhat fomenting manner, "He had, although Rex acted under the disguise of dark elves and had handed over the bodies of several hundred dark elves. But his people quickly occupied those magic stone veins and started madly mining them. Based on the various signs, it's very likely that those magic stone veins were occupied by him." Solomon said with a gentle laugh. "What's very likely? Those magic stone veins were occupied by him. It's as simple as that." Penagoldo hesitated before saying, "Your Majesty, occupying magic stone veins of aristocrats is punishable by death." Satsuma Marquidom was one of the Black Dragon Empire's territories with large amounts of magic stone veins. But the majority of magic stone veins belonged to warlock families. According to the laws of Black Dragon Empire, even Johann had no way of occupying them. Now that those magic stone veins were forcefully occupied by Yang Feng, then according to the laws of Black Dragon Empire, he would definitely be sentenced to death. Solomon said lightly, "He's very clever. He hadn't brazenly invaded and occupied them, but rather used the Dark Elves as a pretext. The timing was also quite cleverly chosen. If we deprived him of his title and territory, then who would want to go to Satsuma Marquidom and fight against the Dark Elves?" Penagoldo became silent at once. There were 8 connections to the underworld in Black Dragon Empire. One was blocked by Yang Feng. In the remaining 7 connections, Black Dragon Empire's warlocks and Dark Elves were endlessly fighting and killing each other, with the casualties of both parties being disastrous. Unless a large number of experts were dispatched to Satsuma Marquidom from the headquarters of the Black Dragon Tower. Otherwise, There was no other mobile force that could be found elsewhere capable of suppressing the Dark Elves from the Underworld's allied forces. Visit freoubnovel.co for the BST novel reading experience. Solomon smiled and said, "He's currently of great value and he's aware of that. That's the only reason why he was so fierce. Such young people really cannot be underestimated." Solomon said lightly, "Penagoldo, send someone to deliver a message to Rex. Tell him that I want 40% of the mind magic stones." Although Solomon was the emperor of Black Dragon Empire and had access to tremendous quantities of resources, but large portion of them belonged to Black Dragon Empire and technically didn't belong to him. Although he could use those tremendous resources of Black Dragon Empire to practice cultivation, but he still had never relaxed and stopped gathering his own resources. When Solomon abdicates, he would have to use his own resources in order to continue practicing cultivation. Of course, Black Dragon Tower would allocate a portion of resources for his practice of cultivation. But when it came to resources, the more one had of them the better. Penagoldo complied respectfully. "Yes, Your Majesty." Fire Nation was one of the largest kingdoms in Tyrannid subcontinent and was only second to the few kingdoms on the level of Black Dragon Empire. Fire Tower was the Warlock group controlling Fire Nation. The master of the Fire Tower was the great Warlock Traximus. Fire Tower was only second to the 6 great forces of Tyrannid subcontinent. Traximus was acknowledged as one of the strongest experts in Tyrannid subcontinent, and his terrifying power was extremely near that of a Starry Sky Warlock. If it were not for the fact that Fire Tower had only him as a great warlock, then Fire Tower might have already become the 7th great force of Tyrannid subcontinent. The headquarters of Fire Tower were located in Fire Nation's Flaming Valley. Flaming Valley was a volcanic valley formed of more than a dozen active volcanoes. Traximus, a terrifying spell, had assimilated the several dozen active volcanoes into the defensive setup of Flaming Valley and established a 7-storied Warlock Tower in the volcanic valley. Moreover, he had built a beautiful and enchanting city with that Warlock Tower as the center. There were several hundred 3-storied or higher Warlock Towers forming a group of Warlock Towers in Flaming Valley. There were at least 30,000 apprentice Warlocks in Flaming Valley learning all kinds of knowledge, as well as at least 200,000 mortals servicing the apprentice Warlocks as well as the Warlocks. Inside the 7-storied Warlock Tower, the entrance to the topmost story opened slowly before an old man slowly came out. The old man was white-bearded and white-haired, yet his eyes were bright and piercing. He was seemingly brimming with even more vigor than a young person. He was dressed in a robe adorned with a flame pattern and a golden thread on the cuffs. This old man was Fire Tower's master, Traximus. After Traximus came out, his body at once turned into a cluster of firelight. He had vanished from where he had stood before strangely appearing in a private room. Traximus' eyebrows creased slightly before he said, "Anna, what happened? Hadn't I instructed you not to disturb me if there's nothing urgent?" Fruobnov.com. Anna looked worried as she said, "Teacher, the Dark Elves from the Underworld's allied forces had already killed their way out of the Underworld." Traximus smiled coldly before saying with much disdain, "Dark Elves? Trifling Dark Elves. They don't amount to anything more than being our playthings." Tyrannid subcontinent's Dark Elves were playthings and pets captured by human warlocks from other planes in ancient times. As a most pinnacle great warlock, Traximus naturally wouldn't pay those trifling Dark Elves any heed. "Teacher, since you're certain that you can deal with them, then that's for the best." Chapter 117 Traximus's Death. Chapter 117 Traximus's Death. Translator, Xuanhuan. 2 people were intertwined in a shagging bout. At the most crucial point, Anna's eyes flashed with a touch of cold light before she turned and embraced Traximus. Her cherry lips parted before a black streak of light instantly spurted from her mouth and pierced into Traximus' heart. "Fucking slut! You dare betray me?" Traximus' eyes flashed with a touch of astonishment as he roared furiously. The terrifying life energy of a great warlock rank erupted in a flash, followed by a cluster of incomparably terrifying flames, before a claw dug into Anna's heart. "Save me!" Anna faced upwards and issued an extremely mournful shriek. She only had the strength of a pinnacle level 3 warlock, She was nothing more than a somewhat sturdy little mouse before the great warlock Traximus, and was unable to stop his wrathful strike. Traximus pierced Anna's heart. Flames erupted in a flash and immediately burned her into a pile of ash. Kacha! Suddenly, a black-clothed handsome young man appeared in a corner of the private room. He had the appearance of a 21 or 22-year-old. The substitution wooden carving in his right hand had shattered and his left hand was holding onto Anna, who should be dead. The young man was graceful. He bowed slightly in salute towards Traximus before saying with a slight smile, "It's the first time that we meet each other, Sir Traximus. My name is Bartolio and I'm from a race that you humans call the Hellion clan. I'm pleased to meet you." Traximus' eyes emitted traces of fire as he covered his chest. He stared at Anna before roaring in extreme rage. "Why have you betrayed me? I was so good to you, Anna. So why have you betrayed me? Traximus, I never cared about you. I've been trying to kill you ever since you burned my beloved Luke to death. I only joined Fire Tower because I wanted to kill you. I've been waiting for a century for this day to come. With the help of this Hellion, I was able to quickly grow into a genius with an inferior level 6 soul aptitude from an average apprentice warlock with an intermediate level for soul aptitude, before promoting to a level 1 warlock and catching your attention. I let this Hellion in. All the magic nodes in Fire Tower were already destroyed and you no longer can draw support from this Warlock Tower. You've been poisoned by the Hellion clan's bone necrosis poison. You'll only become weaker and weaker with time. Finally, even your bones will melt slowly before you die." Anna gave a vicious smile before narrating extremely hatefully. freewebnovuel.com. Bone necrosis poison. Traximus felt a chill within before he crazily revolved his spirit force and stimulated his formidable life energy in an attempt to expel the bone necrosis poison from his body. Bone necrosis poison was developed by Hellion clan and had a high toxicity towards human warlocks. It was a highly toxic poison refined from the highly toxic heart blood of Hellion. Depending on the material used to refine it, then even great warlocks who weren't poison attributed would only have a slim chance at survival. Too late. If you're given some time, then you might be able to dispel the bone necrosis poison. But I won't give you the chance to do that. Bartolio smiled before his body collapsed and he disappeared in a flash. An extremely sharp bone spike burst out of Traximus' shadow in a split second and pierced into his head before twisting hard and directly scrambling his brain. Fire Tower's master great warlock Traximus had such a grievous death, without even getting the chance to display his terrifying battle prowess. Bartolio picked up the robe that Traximus had taken off and swept it with a glance before revealing a trace of a smile. Superior teleportation, superior warping force field, superior curse resistance, and superior wind control. This magic flame robe is worthy of being a legend rank secret treasure. Killing him wouldn't be so simple if he hadn't taken off this secret treasure robe. A black radiance suddenly rose into the sky from the flaming valley. Suddenly, extremely tyrannical life forces gushed out from around the flaming valley, before countless Hellion clans expert rushed towards the valley. At once, fierce fluctuations of magic and blare from the fighting were transmitted from the flaming valley. The battle finally ceased after 1 day and 1 night, only that the flaming valley had already transformed into a hell on earth. Fire Tower was destroyed. Before long, Fire Nation was also quickly conquered by the Hellions. Almost at the same time, Snow White Tower, Blue Bay Family, Fireheart, Lightning Eye, and others, these human warlock groups with great warlocks presiding over them had their great warlocks assassinated one after another. What followed was the nearly complete destruction of those forces by the Dark Elves from the Underworld's allied forces with only a few accidents. A total of 7 great warlocks fell under the assassination ploy of the Underworld's allied forces, with 3 warlocks escaping with heavy injuries without leaving any traces. The entire Tyrannid subcontinent was extremely shocked. Black Dragon Empire had only 7 great warlocks. Within a short span of less than a month, 7 great warlocks fall and 3 great warlocks were heavily injured. The terrifying strength displayed by the Underworld's allied forces had stunned the entire Tyrannid subcontinent. Those originally aloof human warlocks, who hadn't paid the Underworld's allied forces any heed, had finally put their arrogance aside, before becoming extremely vigilant with regards to this enemy. Hellion clan's assassin Bartolio, Shadow Goddess Mary, and Night Hunter Romulage. The reputation of these three legendary assassins from the Allied forces reverberated through the entire Tyrannid subcontinent. 10 venerable great warlocks of Tyrannid subcontinent were either killed or greatly injured by those three legendary assassins. Apart from the 6 great warlock groups, practically every force with great warlocks had already started to pull back their line of defense, focusing their strength on their lairs. They crazily sought to purge the traitorous fuckers among their forces. They didn't dare to send their troops away. Under such circumstances, the underworld's allied forces were like fish in water, occupying large swaths of land in Tyrannid subcontinent. Furthermore, they obtained huge benefits by continuously exploiting all kinds of resources. They also started producing all kinds of weapons and consequentially expanding their forces. Underneath Giant Stone City, inside the portable fortified stronghold, the current state of affairs appears to be very discouraging. Should I escape to the main continent right away? Yang Feng looked at the intelligence reports coming from all over before creasing his eyebrows slightly, the thought of escaping taking root in his mind. He had already finished building his portable fortified stronghold. Moreover, he had stocked the portable fortified stronghold with large amounts of magic stones, steel, and power source crystals. Even if he had to leave for the main continent, then he could quickly expand once more. TH's most up-to-date novels are published on fguyuyobinovel.com. Within a short span of a month, humans had 10 of their great warlocks killed or gravely injured. Additionally, Tyrannid subcontinent's 6 great forces were still fighting on their own instead of joining forces. Yang Feng though that if human warlocks continued with this direction, then their chances of success wouldn't be too great. He had already made sufficient preparations for his escape. Chapter 118 Envoy Uterax. Chapter 118 Envoy Uterax. Translator, Zayamoj. Arad Latest T Chapter S at freeobnovel.com only. Ever since the portable fortified stronghold was completed, the battle prowess of Yang Feng's primary battle robots had suddenly skyrocketed by at least 100 times. But he had no intentions of risking those primary battle robots for Tyrannid subcontinent's humans. If he were to send his primary battle robots to help Tyrannid subcontinent's humans defeat the allied force from the underworld, then next, he might become the enemy of Tyrannid subcontinent's 6 great warlock groups, before having them jointly restrict his development to the point of almost stifling him. In addition, Yang Feng wasn't indigenous to Tyrannid subcontinent, and wasn't a person with a noble character that would selflessly risk his hide for Tyrannid subcontinent's humans. It's only natural that he wasn't willing to invest his forces in a dangerous war without any benefits. Eunice, Judy, and Shui. These 3 were relatively important to Yang Feng and had already been called back to Giant Stone City. Yang Feng was ready to escape with his portable fortified stronghold at any time. A crisp ringing suddenly sounded beside Yang Feng. Yang Feng at once took the helmet. The eyes of the liquid metal robot named Yang Yi blossomed with traces of red light and it entered the hall. Respectful greetings, Sir City Master. Alan, dressed in a silver-white warlock robe with silver thread on the cuffs, bowed respectfully towards Yang Feng in salute. Relying on the huge amount of resources provided by Yang Feng, Alan had finally managed to promote to a level 1 warlock not long ago. This made him even more grateful and awed towards Yang Feng. What is it? Warlock College Antalia's Sir Uterax requests a meeting. Take him to the reception to see me. Sir City Master Uterax didn't came alone. Fernandro family's patriarch Lamix came also. Yang Feng was very surprised as he said, Lamix? How come he also came? Yang Feng's Steel City had swallowed almost half of Fernandro Principality, stepping on Fernandro family in order to expand. The people of Fernandro family were itching to skin Yang Feng and burn him to cinders. 300-odd bodies of spies and assassins fell outside Black City each year, testifying to the terror of Steel City's mechanical legion. Fernandro family didn't had any means of retaliation. Yang Feng thought for a moment before saying, Take him to the reception as well. Even if a powerful politician were to meet his mortal enemy, but he still could enter an alliance with his enemy in the face of benefits. Although Yang Feng wasn't a politician, but he still had no qualms in meeting people from Fernandro family. After all, it was him who took advantage of Fernandro family and not the other way around. Black City, inside the reception. When Yang Feng saw Uterax, he instantly proceeded to welcome the other warmly. Uterax, my good friend. For you to come visit me, is something the matter? Uterax had given Yang Feng a life-saving woodchip at the time, before saving him once. Yang Feng was still thankful towards him. Uterax said in a heavy voice, Yang Yi, I've come to deliver to you the orders of Warlock College Antalya. The Council of Elders orders you to immediately dispatch your troops to Fernandro Principality's capital and defend it. Yang Feng agreed readily. All right. Only now did Uterax heave a slight sigh of relief. He had thought that Yang Feng would blatantly refuse this order. If that were the case, then he would have it difficult on both fronts. Lamix, a handsome middle-aged man standing beside Uterax, also heaved a slight sigh of relief. Yang Feng smiled slightly and said, As long as Warlock College Antalya gives me 30 million magic stones, then I'll immediately send my troops. It was extremely unwise to openly defy the orders of Warlock College Antalya. Of course, Yang Feng wouldn't obediently comply with Warlock College Antalya's orders and fight for Fernandro Principality. freewebnov.com. Uterax's smile stiffened at once. The young, beautiful and pure Jessica brimming with a noble temperament. She lovely and pitifully looked at Yang Feng before pleading softly. Respected Steel City's Sir City Master, I'm Jessica, the third successor of Fernandro Principality's Fernandro family. 30 million magic stones is too much. Fernandro family is unable to take out such a huge amount. Please be a bit understanding this once. Fernandro family is willing to take out 300,000 magic stones. So please send your troops to support us. Yang Feng's gaze fell on Jessica before revealing a trace of a smile. Fernandro family's Jessica was acknowledged as one of the strongest geniuses among Yang Feng's peers in Warlock College Antalya, and had promoted to a level 2 apprentice warlock in just over 2 years. She was pursued by countless male students in Warlock College Antalya, and was recognized as one of the 4 great beauties among Yang Feng's peers. Yang Feng said lightly, All right, I'll send an infantry regiment to support you. After Yang Feng took over Steel City, he immediately begun to adapt his army and organize it according with Earth's military organization that he was the most familiar with, such as regiment, brigade, division, and others. An infantry regiment had around 1,500 warriors. Jessica's beautiful complexion changed slightly. She revealed a lovely and pitiful expression before pleading softly, Please, could you send 5 mechanized infantry divisions to reinforce us? In more than 2 years, many forces had dispatched spies to enter Steel City, of which many had formal statuses. Under the investigation of those people, some information that Yang Feng had deliberately released was picked up by them. That's the only reason why Jessica would know about mechanized infantry divisions. In Black Dragon Empire, the large number of heavy artillery sold by Yang Feng had displayed tremendous power in the war. The aristocrats of Black Dragon Empire had at once made large orders to buy all kinds of heavy artillery. There were already many forces in Tyrannid subcontinent that knew about the power of Steel City's heavy artillery. There were also many formidable weapons refined by superior alchemists in Tyrannid subcontinent. Many of them had even greater power than those heavy artillery. But Steel City's heavy artillery had the highest cost-performance ratio. Just the price of 1 scroll of the level 1 spell fireball was at least 10,000 magic stones. In small-scale battles, this level 1 fireball could help a level 1 warlock defeat another level 1 warlock. But in large-scale wars, the power of this fireball was by far inferior to that of large-caliber heavy artillery shells. Yang Feng very conscientiously priced the large-caliber heavy artillery shells at 500 magic stone per shell by. Each of Yang Feng's mechanized infantry divisions were equipped with large amounts of tanks, self-propelled artillery, rocket artillery, heavy-duty assault helicopters, bombers, and transporter aircraft. Jessica wanted for Yang Feng to send his mechanized infantry divisions as support, rather than him casually sending some cannon fodder. The worth of 1,500 defenseless and untrained people going to a battlefield might be even less than that of 50 fully equipped and well-trained genuine warriors. Chapter 119 Continent Holy War Decry. Chapter 119 Continent Holy War Decry. Translator, Xayamoj. Yang Feng sneered coldly. Mechanized infantry divisions? That's impossible. The selling price for the alchemical heavy artillery is at 100,000 magic stones per unit and 500 magic stones per shell. Every mechanized infantry division has over 100 units of heavy artillery. A mechanized infantry division is priced at 100 million magic stones. You expect me to send them protect to your Fernando family free of charge? Jessica's smile stiffened and her expression at once became extremely gloomy, making her look incomparably lovely and pitiful. Lamix took a step forward and looked at Yang Feng before saying heavily, Yang Yi, it was an order issued by Warlock College Antalya. Do you really want to disobey the college's order? Yang Feng sneered. How could I disobey the college's order? Warlock College Antalya just ordered me to support you. But no specifics were mentioned about how I should support you. Utarax said heavily, Yang Yi, we're all in the same boat. If Fernando Principality were to perish, then you'll be the next target of the underworld's allied forces. If you dispatch your troops to guard Fernando Principality, then the battles would only erupt on their side and you'll hardly be affected. And even if Fernando Principality is eliminated, at that point you could still calmly organize the second line of defense. The complexions of Lamix and Jessica at once became extremely unsightly, but they were smart enough to keep quiet. Yang Feng smiled, but he still spoke without making the slightest concession. Unless Fernando Principality's territory belongs to me. Otherwise, I can't dispatch my mechanized infantry divisions. Jessica's pretty face surged with a touch of a martyrdom. She took a step forward, looked straight at Yang Feng and then pleaded softly, Respected Sir Yang Yi, if you dispatch 3 mechanized infantry divisions to reinforce Fernando Principality, then no matter the outcome, I'm willing to be your woman and wholeheartedly comply with every of your demands. Yang Feng smiled lightly, before ruthlessly striking at Jessica's ego. Sorry, but I don't think that you're worth 100 million magic stones. Jessica's pretty face paled and her beautiful eyes surged with a touch of humiliation. Her eyes were already filled with traces of gloom as she stepped back. In the slave market, a rather beautiful maiden could already be bought for 1 magic stone. For 1 million magic stones, one could even buy some female level 1 warlock slaves in some particular slave markets. As for the huge amount of 100 million magic stones, it would be enough to let Yang Feng promote to a level 2 warlock. Utarax pondered for a while before saying unhurriedly, Fine, I give you my word. As long as you send troops to defend Fernando Principality's capital. Then henceforth, the entire Fernando Principality is yours. The complexions of Lamix and Jessica suddenly changed greatly after hearing that, before staring at Utarax with incredulity flashing in their eyes. Fernando Principality was the foundation of Fernando family, although there weren't many magic stone veins in Fernando Principality. But the abundant resources and the huge population were enough to become the foundation and inheritance of a level 3 warlock family. Yang Feng's Steel City previously only had an income of more than 3,000 magic stones because he didn't have any interest in managing his territory, as well as used the countless resources to manufacture his mechanical legion, resulting in such a small income. Up.dfrmfreewebnovel.com. Yang Feng said with some surprise, Utarax, was this authorized by Warlock College Antalya? Southern States Coalition was under Warlock College Antalya's domain, and every of its principalities had their own master. Any changes to this needed to be first approved by Warlock College Antalya's Council of Elders. It was Warlock College Antalya, White Elephant Ivory, Eyes of Justice, Rose Garden, Savage Claw, Black Dragon Tower. They jointly signed the Continent Holy War Decree. In this holy war, any forces that defeat the allied forces of the underworld in a given territory, as long as they hold it until the end of the holy war, then that territory would become their own and their legitimacy would be recognized by everyone. As long as you have the ability, then Cineris Principality and Potent Principality, they could all be yours. Utarax said lightly. After the Dark Elves from the underworld's allied forces had assassinated 7 and heavily injured 3 human warlocks, they then swept over Tyrandit subcontinent like a storm. The top forces that had great warlocks keeping watch over them and some formidable inheritances as well as level 3 warlock forces with 7-storied warlock towers, only they could barely hold their bases. Forces that didn't had any level 3 warlocks were simply unable to withstand the assault from the underworld's allied forces. Cineris Principality and Potent Principality, the both of them had already been defeated and occupied by the underworld's allied forces. Yang Feng originally didn't had any interest in sending his troops and have a gruesome altercation with the underworld's allied forces. But now he was extremely interested in it. Cineris Principality and Potent Principality had a joint area that was at least 50 times as big as Satsuma Marquisdoms. Although the two great principalities had much less magic stone veins than Satsuma Marquisdom, but they were also rich in a lot of resources required for warlocks to practice cultivation. If the two great principalities were to be annexed, then Yang Feng's forces could once again increase rapidly by a large fraction. Yang Feng said decisively, "All right, I'll send my troops tomorrow." Lei Mix contemplated for a moment before saying unhurriedly, "Sir Yang Yi, I have the corpse of an adult Moffin demonic polar bear. The corpse includes the fur, skeleton, and magic core of the Moffin demonic polar bear. I'm willing to offer you this Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse." Uterax exclaimed, "Moffin demonic polar bear? But that's an extraordinary life form with the power of earth manipulation. When adult, it has battle prowess comparable great warlocks." FRioEbnovel.com. Yang Feng couldn't help but be moved after hearing that. The corpse of an extraordinary life form comparable to a great warlock rank was definitely a rare treasure. Coupling with portable fortified strongholds' formidable manufacturing ability, as long as he had an intact corpse of an extraordinary life form comparable to a great warlock rank, then he could create a new great warlock rank mechanical battle beast. In Tyrannid subcontinent, there was a demand but no supply for corpses from great warlock rank extraordinary life forms. It was a peerless treasure that one could stumble upon but not seek for, and would be divided among great warlock rank experts once discovered. Yang Feng had a vast amount of magic stones, but he still couldn't buy a corpse of a great warlock rank extraordinary life form. Yang Feng suppressed his desire before saying without batting an eye, "What do you want for it?" As long as Lei Mix doesn't ask for anything too excessive, then Yang Feng would agree. Lei Mix said unhurriedly, "I want Fernandro Principality and for it not to be destroyed in the Holy War. Apart from this, I hope that Jessica can marry your only kin Yang Feng." Jessica looked at Lei Mix with surprise, but she was quite sensible and kept her silence. Chapter 120 Moffin Demonic Polar Bear. Chapter 120 Moffin Demonic Polar Bear. Translator, Zayamoch. Yang Feng thought for a moment before making a prompt decision. "Very well, I agree." Producing a great warlock rank mechanical battle beast would greatly upgrade Yang Feng's overall strength. It would be one more trump card for Yang Feng's rapid expansion. After he annexed several principalities, Fernandro Principality would no longer be important to Yang Feng. After all, there weren't many resources within Fernandro Principality. A trifling marquisdom like Satsuma Marquisdom had several times the resources of Fernandro Principality. Lei Mix gave Yang Feng a bronze ring. The corpse of the Moffin demonic polar bear is within this space ring. This level 3 secret treasure space ring was an extremely precious treasure that belonged to Fernandro family for more than a millennia. Space treasures were always rare in Tyrannid subcontinent. Basically all of them were in the hands of formidable beings such as level 3 warlocks and above. Fernandro family only had this space ring because it previously also had level 3 warlocks. Yang Feng received the space ring. He swept it with his spirit force and sensed that it was a mid-sized space ring with 10 by 10 by 10 cubic meters of space. There was a huge white-furred Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse inside the space ring. The Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse was clearly quite well preserved, even though it was unknown when it died, but it still emitted formidable fluctuations of power that could be underestimated. "Good stuff," Yang Feng praised. His mind moved and released the Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse, before pressing on the dimensional crest on his chest and collecting the corpse. Uterax's pupils contracted slightly after seeing this scene. Space treasure, even a level 2 warlock with a prestigious background like himself didn't had one. And now even Yang Yi had one. He couldn't help but be full of astonishment. "Have it back." Yang Feng casually threw the space ring and returned it to Lei Mix. Lamix only heaved a long sigh of relief after receiving his spare ring back. It was one of Fernando family's heirlooms. He would have never offered Yang Feng such a treasure were it not for Fernando family being at the juncture of life and death. Yang Feng casually threw a dimensional crest towards Jessica. I'll gift you this treasure now that you're my nephew's fiancée. Inside, there are 10 mechanical golems with battle prowess comparable to level 2 warlocks. Remember to release them to protect yourself. After receiving the dimensional crest, Jessica swept it with her spirit force. Her pretty face immediately surged with a trace of delight after discovering that the space within the dimensional crest was huge, before bowing towards Yang Feng in salute and saying deferentially, "Many thanks, sir, for bestowing this treasure upon me." Eudirax swept Jessica with a glance, and a trace of envy flashed trough the depths of his eyes. Mechanical golems with battle prowess comparable to level 2 warlocks. Every one of them would be greatly useful to a level 2 warlock like himself. Eudirax, my nephew Yang Feng had received your care in Warlock College in Talia. I hope you like this mechanical golem. Yang Feng waved his hand. A level 2 mechanical bladed robot immediately walked out of a corner, before stopping beside Eudirax. A red light flashed past the eyes of that bladed robot, before instantly erupting with a formidable force field comparable to that of a level 2 warlock and simultaneously activating and encompassing level 2 protective cover. Terrific! This mechanical golem even has a defensive force field that is comparable to that of a level 2 warlock. It's truly perfect. Eudirax stared unwaveringly at the level 2 protective cover. His eyes flashed with fervor as he praised repeatedly. For warlocks, defensive power was more important than offense power, and defensive spells were by far more valuable than offensive spells. Eudirax could sense that the level 2 protective cover of the bladed robot was even more tyrannical than every one of the level 2 defensive spells that he had. Coupled with the bladed robot being a golem, it was immune to most curses and other wicked spells, as well as unafraid of death. Even Eudirax might not be this bladed robot's match. Good stuff, truly good stuff. Lemix's eyes flashed with incandescence as he stared at the bladed robot. Then his gaze brimming with excitement fell onto the dimensional crest on Jessica's chest. Our Fernando family can definitely become one of the strongest level 2 warlock families with 10 of these level 2 warlock rank mechanical golems. Jessica felt Lemix's gaze, and she tightly gripped the dimensional crest, before loosening her grip and releasing it. She had been attached with great importance and had been carefully groomed by Fernando family. She was very clear what those 10 level 2 mechanical golems meant for Fernando family. Yang Feng said lightly, "Well, you can leave now that there's nothing more to talk about." Yes. Eudirax's group of 3 could only leave. Yang Feng operated another level 2 liquid metal robot and quickly brought the Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse to the portable fortified stronghold below Giant Stone City for analysis and modulation. Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse. Degree of integrity: 99.5%. A vial of Moffin demonic polar bear's bloodline essence with an intermediate concentration of bloodline can be extracted from this corpse. Special fighting arms: mechanical demonic polar bear. 8 meters tall and 65 tons of weight. Equipped with a super energy magic core propulsion furnace and level 5 protective cover. Capable of operation within a radius of 10,000 kilometers. Requires 1 million Kuan of energy and 10 units of dimensional crystals. General evaluation of fighting strength: level 10. No potential for evolution. Manufacturing time: 24 hours. Yang Feng revealed a hint of a delighted smile. Great! Like this, I'll have 2 primary battle robots with battle prowess comparable to great warlocks. Even if I run into a genuine great warlock rank enemy, I'll be able to contend against him. In Tyrannid subcontinent, any great warlock rank expert represented a peak existence. They could control a warlock group and found a kingdom. Moreover, great warlock rank experts were known as legend rank experts in other planes. They were legendary people that left their mark in history. The strongest experts of many lower planes were only at the great warlock rank. Every great warlock rank expert was extremely prideful and were basically loners. With 2 great warlock rank primary battle robots, Yang Feng could defeat many lone great warlock rank experts. New novel chapters are published on freewebnovel.com. Yang Feng thought somewhat regretfully. Unfortunately, I don't have the Moffin demonic polar bear's secret method. Otherwise, I'd soon have more than one bloodline warlock family under my control. We've reached the end of today's episode. Thank you for traversing the boundless landscapes of fantasy with us. If today's story has sparked joy within you, please remember to hit the like button, share our journey with others, and subscribe to Lord of the Stories for an ever-expanding collection of mystical escapades. Until we meet again to turn the page to a new adventure, hold the tales dear in your heart and let the embers of magic warmly glow in your spirit. Farewell, intrepid explorers of the narrative unknown.